Welcome everyone to Gotham City Bulletin. We're back. My co-hosts decided to abandon us for a week, so we took Friday off. Um, Robert, welcome back. How's it going? And he can't hear me for some reason. Why can't you hear me? Hello? Oh, wait. What is happening? Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear.
Weird. My Discord mute button was lagging.
Oh, yeah. That was cool, just smiling and nodding for the next couple
And
hours.
so anyway, as I was saying, my co-host abandoned me on Friday, so we didn't do a video. How's it going?
Pretty good. Glad to be back.
Yeah, we're
Talk some
back.
Batman.
We're gonna get back into the swing of things. We're picking a momentum here, and we have a new Batman show to talk about. My Adventures with. Wait, no, that's the other guy. Um, so you were more excited for this than me, but I will just come out and say I was wrong with a couple of caveats.
Okay.
I have some complaints. I have some complaints. I have some questions. We're gonna get all into that. We're gonna get into all of that. We're gonna take some chat feedback, discuss with people. We are going to try to stay spoiler free for maybe 10 minutes. Just kind of give some general impressions for people who are curious. And then when we get to full blown spoilers, we will say something. So, Robert, did you binge this or did you watch it in chunks?
I watched it in chunks, like a couple episodes at a time, over the course of a few days. But yeah, I kind of wanted to take my time with it. I didn't want to do the whole thing in one sitting because I've been looking forward to this for so long. But at the same time, I knew I had to get this done
You had to get
by
it done.
Sunday so we do this review. But yeah.
Anime Fan says this is the first solo Batman cartoon in a decade. That's true.
That is true.
DC's going to make it a comeback with the animated TV shows.
Yeah, thankfully, even though David Zaslav hates animation with a burning passion, we're still getting some good projects.
My Adventure with Superman is wonderful. This is what it is. I'm not going to say how I feel about it entirely yet, but it's the point of the show.
We've got Creature Commandos on the horizon from James Gunn.
Well, and I feel like I don't know with My Adventure with Superman, but with this, kind of they made some money, just selling it off to Amazon, and you got to wonder if they regret that because this has been pretty big. Just the gist that I get.
I don't understand why they didn't just put this on Adult Swim, because if they wanted money, it's like, well, then put it on Adult Swim for, commercials and ads and stuff like that. That's how you get more money than just making it a streaming exclusive. But Adult Swim's worked out for My Adventure with Superman, and this seems like it'd be a perfect Adult Swim show. So
I had the same thought because then if you ever want to cross them over, you could do that.
Sure, but they're so different stylistically. I don't know if you could make that.
You mean kind of like Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series were?
This is more drastic than that, especially given that Lois Lane does have a cameo in this show.
Well, I have a question about that too, but we'll get there. Anime Fan says Max made a huge mistake by passing on Caped Crusader. I agree. I think this would have been big for them.
Yep.
It seems to be popular. I've only talked to our circles because those are the only people I know that watch stuff like this. But it was I haven't heard anyone have say, "Oh, this sucks."
Yeah, no, most people seem to be liking it. I hope people are watching it. That's kind of the scary thing about a binge show is while I appreciate it being a binge show, getting to watch it all at once, that in a couple weeks it's totally possible that nobody's talking about this and everyone just moves on. So I understand we've kind of shifted to more of the weekly format again for most big shows. But this is for sure getting a season 2, so that's exciting. Will it get to season 3? We'll see. But spoiler alert, I like this, so I hope it keeps going.
I think they bought. Yeah, I know they've at least bought 2 seasons, and this. I think I read somewhere that they were happy with how this show did overall.
That's good. Well, because this, for some context for people, this was announced like 3 or 4 years ago. as part of like when the new DC initiative, well before James Gunn was in charge and everything at Warner Brothers changed. So there was a scary minute where it was like, yeah, it looks like Warner Brothers just pulled the plug on Caped Crusader. It's dead. We're not gonna get it. Like, and we knew very little about the show for like 2 years. They're just quietly making it in the background, all sorts of rumors and stuff. Some of which turned out to be not true, which we get into later. But and then Amazon Prime picked up, saved it, like they did with that animated kid special, the Merry Little Batman. It's like all the Batman stuff that Warner Brothers doesn't care about, I guess, just goes to Amazon Prime now.
Yeah, because they're smart and realizes there's money to be made on a Batman cartoon. Like, I get that Zaslav is a moron, but the fact that he doesn't see like money in what is arguably their biggest character baffles me.
And you can't even say, oh, well, Batman's oversaturated or whatever. It's like we've said, he hasn't had a solo cartoon in a decade.
And even
Harley Quinn and other shows like that, but not just a Batman.
And even then, the last one that we got, hardly anybody liked or watched.
Mm-hmm.
And the one before that was a team-up show.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel about it, arguably the last successful solo Batman show was The Batman, which was 20 years ago. Anime fan says the fact that Max kept Kite Man but not Batman is deeply odd. Well, that's a different situation though. With Kite Man, that's a spin-off of an existing show
that was already popular.
Yeah,
had an audience, so it would have been strange to have a spin-off like end up on another network.
Now that has happened. Buffy and Angel had that happen back in the day.
Sure.
You didn't know that. Shut up.
I didn't know that.
So I guess we'll just start. Do you want to do this like episode by episode, or just kind of hit some talking points? How are you feeling?
We can hit a couple points up. I thought we'd just go episode by episode.
Okay, so let's start with the villains, because that is the big point of contention that I've seen with people. By people I mean like one or two people. Who is your best villain and your worst villain?
Oh, well, if you know me, you know that my best is Clayface. I was very happy with the Clayface episode. We'll get to it. Also like their take on Catwoman and some of the others. Worst villain? Probably Harley Quinn. I mean, we'll get to it, but like I do have nice things to say about that episode and their take. I'm predicting I'm not going to be as down on that episode as you potentially were, but that's only like in comparison to the other ones, because most of the villains I think are pretty good.
Okay. So I'm also going to say Clayface is my favorite. It's just, it's like if you made a character in a Batman show, like for me, for my sensibilities. I got to give worst to Two-Face. I don't like anything about their Harvey Dent or Two-Face. I think it is deeply uninteresting that he's just as corrupt as anyone else and then decides to become a good guy when he gets hurt. And that design is terrible.
We're going to have to agree to disagree there. I like the finale quite a bit.
I like the finale. I don't like episode 9.
I mean, I kind of want to save it for later, but I think making the scarred half the good side of Two-Face, I think that's an inspired choice. I like that a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing that in future adaptations. So I get what you're saying about not liking him being corrupt, but he's more on the edge, right? Like he's kind of teetering, kind of playing both sides, not sure.
See, I don't
like,
think the show
he's not fully evil or good.
I don't think the show knows, because the first few episodes just play him like a scumbag, like just as bad as like, you know, Bullock or what's that other guy's name, Flass. You know, willing to do whatever it takes. Like he says that he has good intentions, but he's doing it the wrong way, and I don't see a lot of goodness in him. And then for some reason, in the 11th hour, he decides, well, I've gone too far. Which maybe is an issue with just how few episodes the season has. There's no, like, build up to this. He just decides, oh, no, this is where I draw the line, and that's why he becomes Two-Face. Maybe a little bit more build up would have helped with that. Just, it's not a take about Harvey that I care, and we didn't keep... And I agree with Austin. I'm just gonna say Austin's point since he's not here. We didn't keep the 2 thing. We have another Two-Face that doesn't care about 2. The PS2.
I was fine with that for this take. You get the coin in there, but only for a little bit. They don't use the coin a lot,
The coin
but
doesn't mean
that's
anything
fine.
either.
It's pretty standard Harvey Dent stuff.
The coin usually has some kind of meaning. Uh, let me catch up on chat here. Clayface is usually my least favorite Batman villain, but I really like the Caped Crusader version. It feels like the original comics version, which is the only version that I liked. Two Face is really good. Harvey Dent was a smug jerk, but he still cared about making a difference. He's conflicted, anti-hero, anti-villain. See, he says that cares about making a difference, but then he goes and gets like bad people off of charges.
Mm.
And like the show is portraying, no, this guy is just as corrupt as anyone else. But then because we need him to be Two-Face, well, now he's hit that line.
Well, we're only seeing him, through the perspective of characters like Barbara and Bruce, who kind of have already formed their own opinion on him. So I don't know. That
But
didn't
even
bother me. It
Bruce,
made
who
sense
is
to
his
keep going.
friend, says that Harvey has always like been over that line.
Yeah, but I interpreted their friendship as a little bit more manufactured or kind of a front on Bruce's
Well, and
part.
we'll talk
Like,
about this Batman because this is like the coldest Batman that I've
yeah,
seen in a long time.
I think Harvey thinks his friendship with Bruce is genuine.
Mm-hmm. But I just don't understand why that guy is the line. Maybe I'm misremembering. So I will say I watched this over a couple days, and then I tried to binge watch it today, but I miscalculated time, so I only got to see the first 7 episodes this time. So I've seen this season 1.5 times. So I did not get back to the Harvey Dent stuff. But I don't remember there being a real reason. Like, why is he drawing the line here? Like, why this guy?
I don't know. I mean, Bruce says later that he hangs around Harvey just to kind of observe and be close on like what criminal activity that's going on and a lot of the cases and like the legal side of
No,
Gotham.
I'm
So
saying
I understand
why?
that.
Why is because the whole reason that he gets acid thrown in his face is because he won't play ball with
With
Thorn
Thorn.
and
Hmm.
get this criminal off the charges, which we've seen him do before. So why is he drawing the line here?
Yeah, I don't know. It just played for me. I need to rewatch it again to kind of follow the steps of what
Yeah,
leads to
you
him making that
bastard.
choice. But it tracked for me when I was watching it.
Fair enough. There's also a
I also like
lot of Aaron Eckhart's Harvey Dent in his Harvey, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, and if you're not a big fan of that portrayal, you're probably not going to be a big fan of this one. This is also looking at Long Halloween a lot, like everything does. So I need to read that again, but I don't think that comic does a lot with the two gimmick either. Harvey, when he has his turn at the end of that story, has kind of a very specific target and motivation. It's just revenge. So it's very similar to this, where he's just kind of motivated by revenge, but
I like
doesn't do a lot
the Dark
beyond
Knight
that.
version, but what I like about that is the tragedy, and I don't feel bad for
Mhm.
this guy. I think I'm supposed to, but I
That's
don't.
fair. No, I get
Also, I
that.
question killing off such a big. Oh, mild spoiler, but I question killing someone, but we don't know who yet.
So,
Um,
do we want to just start going episode by episode then?
yeah. So we're gonna just move into full spoilers. Oh no, actually, one more thing: favorite episode and least favorite episode.
Well, I kind of already gave it away with my villains. Favorite episode would be episode 2 and be a villain. Like, so there's some other good ones in there. I like the Catwoman episode. I like the finale. And then least favorite is probably the Harley Quinn one, the stress of her regard. That one didn't do much for me, though. Again, I will have some nice things to say about it. I thought some of the choices there were interesting, but just compared to the other episodes, that one was probably my least favorite. And I've been looking forward to the show for years, and I'm just so happy that it's finally here and just get to watch and enjoy it. I'm not blown away. I should say up front, like I didn't think this was an amazing show, but I thought it was very solid. I think it's a good first season, and there are some good gems in there. Like none
It's
of
got a
these are.
brilliant pilot. Like that's a great. That
It's
pilot
a
is
solid pilot.
a great way
Yeah.
to introduce yourself into this new show.
Yeah, I love the world. I love the tone and the aesthetic, everything they're going for. Bruce Timm said that he wanted this to be like the old gangster noir pictures crossed with the old Universal monster movies, and it totally shows. It's a perfect blend of that stuff and like old action pictures and action stories and stuff. And as someone like me who grew up on a lot of Golden Age Batman with the comics and the old movie serials, this was just a treat for me to get this specific aesthetic for a Batman show. It's something I've wanted for a long time. It's not exactly how I wanted it. There are some surprises here, some choices that worked for me and some that didn't, but I'm just happy to have the show, just to have a new Batman show. I think it's very good. Not amazing. There aren't any 10 out of 10 episodes here for me personally, but I did enjoy the ride, and now I can't wait for season 2. I think this is a really solid start.
Okay. So there's two 10 out of 10 episodes for me. I'm actually,
Okay.
I think I'm going to surprise you. As much as Clayface is my favorite villain, it's not my favorite episode.
Okay.
I think the Nocturna episode is my favorite episode.
It's a good one.
That, and I think that's because I'm glad that you're here for this because you did have that Golden Age experience. I have never read Golden Age Batman, so I'm looking at it through lens like that's not an Easter egg for me. It's just like it's Batman stuff. But man, the ending of that episode is so good.
Yeah, it's got a great ending.
And then conversely, my least favorite episode is episode 6, the Ghost Horseman guy.
Oh, Gentleman Ghost. I thought it was pretty good. I like
This is the first time I've seen this guy, and I don't know. He feels kind of out of place with the rest of the villains they're going for. And it gets really melodramatic at the end, which I think this show is a little bit above. Okay, so we're going to be moving into full spoilers, everyone. So if you've not watched this show yet, highly recommend it. You go watch it. Robert, we're going to get the tough discussion out of the way first. And we did not like plan this or anything. Robert has no idea what I'm going to ask. Do you think this show is trying to have its cake and eat it too with the setting?
No. I'm gonna say no. Why do you ask that?
So this is a very 30s piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I said this is a tough discussion because we're kind of we're going to be skating some lines here. But we have a black police commissioner and openly lesbian people, girls, women, whatever, in the 30s.
Say it's the 30s.
I'm throwing out a decade, but it's very clearly, a older, 40s, 50s, somewhere in that time period. There's nothing modern about it.
Okay, can I plead my case for why those choices don't bother me? Why I think they work fine.
That's why I'm asking you.
It's because for me, this is all the setting is purely aesthetic. It's a lot of people in fedoras. We got old timey radios, old looking cars, but it's all just aesthetic, surface level stuff. This is not going hard as a period piece. And what I mean is, there are very few references to stuff that was politically going on in the 30s, like actual historical events. This is it's just using the aesthetic choice of gangsters and old noir picture stuff. And more specifically, it's looking at movies of the time, not actual history of the time. And it's important to remember that this is Gotham City. This is a fictional world. This is a universe that doesn't have to play by the exact same rules that our world has played by in terms of social issues and human history and stuff. So because it's all just aesthetic and that it's just looking at movies more than the time specifically they were made in terms of political issues, none of that stuff bothers me.
Okay, so I'm gonna fight you on the political thing for a second. But that's what I'm asking. Do you think it's trying to have its cake and eat it too? Like we want to have this aesthetic, but we also want to change some characters around and not have to deal with what life would really be like for them in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah, like it just didn't bother me here. It does bother me in something like Superman Red Sun, where that's a story very informed by the time it's set in, with the backdrop of the Cold War and Russia and everything going on there. Like that's a lot more specific. This is again it's purely aesthetics. It's just outfits and technology, not our history with slavery or social issues or whatever.
I can't believe I'm arguing this side because it didn't bother me at the end of the day, but I feel like it's important to talk about. I think you could make the argument that that's a little bit lazy. Like if you're gonna ape this aesthetic, like I don't know, go all the way. Like make a show, especially in Gotham, which is supposed to be the most corrupt city on the planet. Life should be very hard for Gordon, not just because he's an honest cop, but because of his skin color, and that's why he is like the beacon of the GCPD, because he can rise above that.
Mhm.
And we deal with the corruptness, but it can't decide how idealized it wants this world to be.
Yeah, sure. Like, so that stuff just didn't bother me since we are talking about a fictional universe. I've heard this argument, and there's been a lot of discussion lately about fantasy and how much like diversity and stuff you should have. And it with fantasy, it's like, well, if you're not talking about actual history, like, should you have to follow the rules of those time periods you're aping off of? I feel like there's a lot more. There should be a lot
I
more
think,
wiggle room, and that applies to this for me.
and I don't necessarily disagree. I think where I have trouble with it coming in is, so you made a 30s period piece, and then you deliberately made Gordon and Barbara both black, and that's got to be a Reeves thing, right?
I'm sure there's some connection there since Jeffrey Wright portrayed Gordon.
Well,
But
that's what I'd say. Like, is it just
yeah,
like a
but
Reeves thing? Like Gordon has to be black in everything he does.
I don't know.
It's just funny. No, it didn't bother me either. But I think at that point you're opening yourself up to that. If you're not going to deal with it, then why race bend them?
I mean that's a fair argument. I'm not saying you couldn't make that stuff work if you wanted it more on the forefront, but if the creators just weren't interested in tackling that
Because
stuff,
like
I think
in
that's
a
also
live
fine.
action movie, I'm not going to be thinking about that because like, well, that's just the best actor for the job. But like in an animated thing, that is a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
And it didn't take me out of it, except for when we first meet Barbara, because I didn't know anything about her other than they were building up a relationship with her and Bruce. And I was
Which they
like,
don't. We'll get to it.
well, I think people took that headline and like ran with it, but they do, but not in the way that everybody thought. At least not in this season. But and I was like, wait a minute, she's a lawyer? Oh, this is like in the 30s or 40s. What? I would have liked to see this maybe deal with that, like maybe not 100%, but like be like, oh, some of these characters have that 40s, mindset where a woman can't be a lawyer or a black guy can't be a police officer, and like show that they're wrong.
Hmm. Look, I mean, if they wanted to tackle those issues and kind of put that more in the forefront, like I would have been fine with it. But
And you have the characters right
I was
there,
just
Bullock and Flass.
Mhm. Yeah, and for anyone whose issue with the show is like diversity and stuff, it is worth noting that we made Flass a black man, and he's a very, very bad person in the show. So
Yeah,
if anyone has any issue with taking these white characters and portraying them with people of color, it's like, hey, I think there's a good balance here, in terms of how they handle inclusion and stuff.
uh, I feel like Caped Crusader is meant to resemble the 40s, but it's not fully realistic. Yeah, Caped Crusader has a person in a bat costume finding a ghost, so not being fully realistic for the standards of the time period doesn't bother me. Okay, with all due respect though, that's a cop out. We live in a, like, just because it has a superhero doesn't mean it can't handle real world issues.
No,
Like, I'm not saying this show.
to be clear,
No,
I'm not saying it can't.
I'm
just
responding to the
finding
chat,
it
Robert.
singular. Yeah,
Robert, I'm responding to the chat.
I know.
We're live. Especially in a post Dark Knight world that deals with real issues. It's played The Gentleman Ghost. The show's oldest character is a bigot, so it's possible that Gotham City used to have bigotry, but is he? Is it? He's not really a bigot. He just looks down on poor people. Not like a specific. But anyway, yeah, he's not a good person. That's all that matters. And then he possesses Alfred, and Alfred gets all melodramatic about it. You have to kill me, sir. Their Alfred's great.
He is. He's always great. But yeah, like I said, my final note though, again, just to reaffirm what I said earlier about why those choices didn't bother me is because they're just looking at 30s movies, 30s comics. It's all aesthetic. It's all backdrop. This is not interested in being more overtly a period piece show with like actual political or historical events. So like this is Gotham City. This is a fictional universe. So I don't need their rules to or history to follow ours one to one. So I don't disagree that they could have talked more about race and gender and their positions in Gotham if they wanted to spend more time on that. Like I would have been cool with it, but
I think
I
I'm
was
also
fine with
shocked that they don't with Rucker and Brubaker on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, my final note is I am not saying in any way that this is a bad thing. It did not affect my opinion of the show whatsoever. It's just something that I thought for like 3 seconds when Barbara Gordon first pops up on screen.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it. So,
I kind of love Oswaldo Cobblepot. I didn't expect to. Bruce Timm finally gets a good penguin. Okay, so let me ask you this: do you think it was a mistake to bring Tim into this?
That's a loaded question because this show doesn't happen without Tim. Like this show happens because some of the higher ups at Warner Brothers or whatever approached him first to say, "Hey, we want you to make more episodes of animated series," and he says, "No, that's done. This is well before Kevin Conroy passed. This is a while ago." So he's approached first to say, "Hey, we want to do more animated series." He says, "No, thanks, that's done. I'm not interested." But once he got the green light to do something new, that's what got more of his curiosity. And then at some point, Abrams, Matt Reeves, a bunch of other people get involved. So I could see some argument for Bruce Timm feeling like changing stuff just for the sake of changing stuff because he's done Batman before. But most of
That's
the
kind of what it feels like, especially with Harley.
Sure, but I was cool with it, especially since there are things that because he didn't get to do on animated series, he has the opportunity to do here, and for the most part, I was fine with it.
That's fair. I will say I finally found a Batman that I don't think Conroy would have fit. At least not Conroy like if he was the same age. Like if it was like prime animated series Conroy maybe. But this is a very so let's just talk about Batman for a minute since he's the titular character. This is the coldest Batman that I've seen in a long time. Like he is detached, and not just from like life, but just everything.
Yeah, especially by calling Alfred Pennyworth. That's such a specific choice to show that like he doesn't see him as a father figure. It's like, no, you're my butler. You help me. Like this is your job.
Yeah, and the thing that will stick with me with this show more than anything, it's in the therapy episode where we get like the flashbacks, and he's like, "You're gonna help me, Alfred. You're gonna help me punish all of them." No, like even as a kid, like he looks like a sociopath.
Mm-hmm. He's very traumatized.
It's great.
And Alfred's design's great. It's more of a portly Alfred, but he looks like his Golden Age version, even though he's written and portrayed much more like his. So again, this show also mixes in a lot and does its own spin on things, like we're going to talk about with Penguin. But like Alfred, he's more of the modern what we think of as Alfred, as raising Bruce and always being there at the manor. But appearance-wise, he looks more like his first appearance, which I think is neat. And yeah, I like their relationship a lot. But you're right, this is a very cold Batman voiced by Hamish Linklater. If you've seen the Midnight Mass, that's probably what you know him from. He's great. Very out of left field choice for Batman, and I think he's pretty good. Sometimes he's a bit stiff, but I think that's by design. As you said, this is a very cold, detached Batman. Like I could see him getting better and better with each season, but he's occasionally great, in my opinion. And there is a strong distinction between his Batman voice and his Bruce Wayne persona. His Bruce Wayne voice sounds a lot more like he sounded in Midnight Mass, I thought.
Oh, see, I think his Bruce Wayne is off.
Really?
Yeah, I think his Batman voice has grown on me. I think he misses a couple spots where I'm like, that could be a little more intimidating. But his Bruce Wayne is too robotic. Like there should be some Playboy charisma.
That always felt by design to me. Like, like he's trying to be the Playboy, but like there's something off with this guy. Like he doesn't talk.
Exactly if anybody had brought attention to it, I would have agreed. But it feels like everyone thinks that he's just the Playboy.
Everyone
like
except
that's
for
the
Dr. Quinzel.
yeah,
Because she calls him out on it. Like, no, I think
but
you're
not because of the way he
on it.
talks, but because of his profile. Like it's the things he says.
Yeah, but I think
I
it's kind
I
of
think his voice is supposed to be the playboy, charming guy, but I don't think. What is that guy's name? I want to say Linklater, but I don't think that's it.
Hamish Linklater.
Oh, am I right, Linklater?
Yeah.
I don't think he fully hits it. He could get there. I would also be fine if this show goes to more like recluse Bruce Wayne. Like nobody really knows what he's up to, kind of the Burton thing, but done better. Uh, and the show does a couple of Burton things, but better. I don't know if you noticed. It does the "you hit me, but I'm a woman" thing from Returns, but
It
like
does.
it makes sense.
Yeah, it works better.
um, this might be the best Catwoman we've had in ages. I love her.
She's great. Are we still going episode by episode?
Yeah, sorry.
Penguin yet?
Okay, so let's rewind. Anime fan says Caped Crusader feels like Bruce Timm going back to what he's good at. It's his best project in several years, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think you'd find too many people that would argue with you. What's the last thing he did that people liked? Gods and Monsters,
Yeah,
which people just kind of forgot about.
And I think he got a little burned on that because it seemed like the last thing he was really passionate and excited about, and then it just went away. It was supposed to spin off into a whole series. He had all those plans for it, and then it just didn't happen. I thought the movie was good, but it seemed like something he was really excited about that just kind of fizzled. And he seemed a little.
I thought it
burned,
was.
but
Yeah, I thought that was an okay movie, but again, that was just it was change for the sake of change.
mm-hmm. That does feel like a lot of his modern DC work is like, okay, how can I do what I've done before but different? Which for me works more than it doesn't.
I think my biggest issue with some of the changes, and I'm going to use this to segue into the Penguin, because I don't think the Penguin is actually much of a change as people think. This is just the Penguin, except a female.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't change her character to adjust for the fact that it's Oswald and now not Oswald. And arguably, it's a better Penguin than animated series.
Yeah, and I love animated series Penguin, but he doesn't get great episodes. He gets a couple pretty good ones. And then in New Batman Adventures, he's basically just a side villain. He's usually like a side villain to other villains' episodes. But yeah, here you get the Iceberg Lounge. It's just the Penguin, but a woman now.
And she's a lounge singer, which I thought was a cool touch. And I don't know who that voice actress is, but she can sing.
Minnie Driver.
Who's that?
I don't know, but I recognize the name.
Okay, I'll pull it. I'll pull it up. Keep talking.
Well, what I'll also say positive about this take on Penguin, though, is she reminds me a lot of a villain called Mom Mayhem, who was in an episode of Batman Beyond called The Egg Baby. That's a pretty popular fan favorite episode, and that episode has a villain who's like a thief, and she has these two idiot sons. And this take on Penguin reminded me a lot of that. I don't know if that was in the back of Bruce Timm's mind or if the similarities are just coincidences, but it reminded me of that, having these two idiot sons and the way one screws the other over, or how Thorne screws one of them over. It's really funny. It's really dark and twisted. The show does a really good job setting tone and stakes and atmosphere.
And we'll talk about it, but there's an episode later that's fucking hilarious, but it doesn't feel intrusive. With a certain villain that makes noises instead of words.
Yeah.
No, this show immediately sets its tone. What she does to her son is horrifying.
Also, we get an appearance from the Bat Sub later. I think that's the only episode we ever see it. It's just really fun that he's got a little underwater bat boat. And then we see a bunch of crates with skeletons in them. So this is not the first time she's done this.
Yeah,
that's dark humor I really like.
No, that's great. I'm looking at this actress and I'm not sure what else. I've not seen her. I've not seen any of these other things. Also, I want to correct myself because you said that Lois Lane makes a cameo in this. I just thought that was like the character model, but it was going to be, someone else. Because it shows that above that. It's credited as just Lois Lane. So I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, she looks like it's in a later episode, but she looks like Lois from the '40s Fleischer cartoons.
Well,
And
yeah,
there's a
but I just
guy
thought they were gonna
standing
be
next to her
like,
that could be Clark Kent.
I just thought that was gonna be like a reference and would actually be like, oh, some original character or something. But like, hey, remember the Fleischer?
No, I would have thought that too, but she is credited as Lois. So
And also apparently Julie Madison is in this show, and I missed it.
yes, she's later. I think it's the Nocturne episode with the carnival where Bruce has a date. I think that was Julie
Oh, okay.
Madison.
I mean, that episode is cameo heavy,
Oh yeah.
which we'll talk about. Um, it's also important in this first episode. Batman he wins, but he loses. It's a very Dark Knight in that way.
Did you have? I had this weird, like mental block. We're watching the show. I kept thinking to myself, it'd be nice if he used Rupert Thorne again because we always use Falcone. And be nice. Oh right, this is Rupert Thorne. I kept thinking he was Falcone for some reason. I think just because I've seen Falcone in so much stuff lately, I kept thinking it was Falcone, but no, it's Rupert Thorne.
I did not have that because Robert Thorne stood out to me more just because I'm not as familiar with animated series as I should be. So it's like, oh, they're not going to Falcone. I thought that was surprising.
Even though it totally could be, I guess just because they didn't want like the rest of the family, which we usually do when we use Falcone.
I just assume they're saving that for like a later season.
Maybe.
They'll do like a full on Long Halloween adaptation or something.
Mm-hmm. They could do some Long Halloween stuff. I also just would like them to do Ego. Just make Ego as an episode. That's one thing.
This would be the place to do it.
Like this Batman design, it's obviously very Bruce Timm, but it's also very Darwyn Cooke. Who was involved with some of those later DC cartoons. So it's like, man, I love this Batman character model so much. There are even times, especially early on, just when he's fighting gangsters, like, oh, this feels like more of what could have been a tie-in to the '89 movie than animated series, just like visually, with the big ears and like fighting gangsters and stuff. But I love this Batman design so much, and there are some. This show, as you discussed, puts its own spin on a lot of things. But when we get to season 2 and beyond, I'm like, man, I just want an Ego episode, or some other just random comic book stories. Like, just do an episode adapting some different comics. I think that'd be really neat.
This would be the place to do it. I am not as hot on the design as you. I think it's good.
Well, it's very Golden Age.
Yeah, and
I've always wanted.
I'm fine with Golden Age, but like I like a very animated series or he needs the things on his arm.
I was fine with dropping that just with the rolled up gloves. I was cool with it.
I don't hate the gloves, but the fact that they just like stop here drives me nuts.
That's how they used to look, man.
Okay, but this show changes everything else. You can fix that. Even if you take the spikes off, just have the gloves go down more.
That doesn't bother me.
And he needs a bigger bat symbol. Not like absolute Batman, but
oh god, no.
I mean, can you imagine if you just had like a bar on his chest?
Ugh, that design.
No purple gloves.
Yes, purple gloves.
That would look so out of place in the show.
This show could have. I love the intro, the opening credits. I think the music's fine. I don't think the music's amazing. It's more about mood and atmosphere. That you don't get a lot of like strong specific themes or motifs, but it works. And like, if this whole show was just in black and white, I'd be cool with that because the black and white opening credits look really cool.
So, side tangent here for just a second. It's funny that you mentioned that. I was watching Cap watch these first 2 episodes, and he was losing his mind over the music.
That's cool.
But anyway, do you have anything else we really want to talk about with episode 1?
No, I think we're good there because we're probably going to be on episode 2 for a while.
Yeah. I will just say that this does a good job of slowly introducing you to the cast that you're gonna kind of be stuck with over the course of the season.
Yeah, and we'll get to it later, but I don't. This is clearly a show that's more interested in focusing on Batman's adult allies, like your Gordons and Alfred. Like, this doesn't seem like a show that's ever going to do a real Robin at some point. We'll obviously get to why. in a later episode. But I guess hypothetically, this is that could put on a costume at some point, but it doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going. But
Yeah,
what do you think?
I
I'm
I
fine with
think
this
you
just being a
could be
solo Batman.
right. They do have an out because I'll speak vaguely on it. They don't name every single one of the kids in that episode that I know of. I think they just named two.
4.
Oh, do they give them? Do they say all of their names?
Yes, though Tim Drake's a pretty noticeable one that's absent. So
Maybe he'll be. I would like to see them do a Robin because I don't care that this is Golden Age Batman. The character path should be that he's like cold and detached, and then Robin comes in and helps him kind of rediscover how to fit in with, or like not fit in, but become more of a classic Batman. And you can't tell me that they're not at least thinking about that with how this season ends.
Right.
Like, this is a Batman that is going to get to that place of where he can admit that he cares.
Right. The difference is, and also, I mean, Robin comes like a year into Batman. Like, that's a very early character. But in the comics, Robin also comes before we get Alfred, before he's super close with Gordon, before Barbara's introduced. So because the show has more focused so much on building that unit of Gordon and Barbara and Alfred, that if that's the focus they want to keep on, I think that's fine. I'm also totally down for introducing Robin because I love Robin. Like, if they want to get there by season 3, that's cool. But I'm fine with living with a solo Batman for a while. But I totally see your point.
I don't need it right away, but I would like to see that at some point.
Mhm.
I also wouldn't like be worst show ever if Robin didn't show up.
Season 3 opens. This is Katana. She's got my back. To go that route again.
Yeah, this is Robin. He does Robin things. It's Robin time. Anime fan, please don't bring Robin into the series. I don't want to see Batman putting kids at risk of getting hurt. Okay, but I mean, if you're gonna hand wave that it doesn't have to be realistic to the 30s and 40s time period, you can't then turn around and say, well, it's unrealistic that he'd bring a kid into a fight.
Yeah. You can also go the animated series route. You could age him up to a teenager. It's fine.
Or just have him be like, the old school, like he's the lookout, right? Like he
Yeah.
does the recon and distracts them while Bruce takes them out.
Yeah, it's all about the writing.
Yeah. And it's not like nobody in this show has ever written Batman and Robin. Wah, wah, wah. Anime fan says, I wonder if Barbara will become Batgirl in season 2. I don't think so. I think she will be. I think she will be the Gordon. Mm-hmm. It won't be James Gordon. It'll be Barbara Gordon is like the Gordon. And then if Bruce Timm gets his way, we all know where that's going.
Yeah, well, he says he's not doing that, so we'll see.
Okay, so I have to say, I know people are probably going to crucify me. I wouldn't mind with this version.
It's a different take. She's aged up.
They're the same age.
They're the same age. It's fine. I don't like that take, but at some point this story got out that, oh no, they're doing the Bruce Barbara romance again, and everyone freaked out. And as of now, the show's not doing that.
Well, because
Tim says he's not doing that.
So I think the actual article was just like they were going to have a relationship, which everybody took to mean, oh, they're going to sleep together. This Bruce is not in a position to have that kind of relationship. But I think if you're going to do that anywhere to just get it out of Bruce Timm's system, do it here. You've gotten yourself an out. I wouldn't be upset. I don't need it. Yeah. I don't really want it. Just do it.
This is a Batman who's not even that into Catwoman yet.
So we'll get there, but because it has one of my favorite moments in the entire series. But the next episode is And Be a Villain.
Where to start? The episode that was made for us.
Yeah, so this is just a Giallo film in 25 minutes. And in some ways is better than most Giallo films because it's only 25 minutes, so you don't have to like pad the runtime. Clayface is wonderful. They're allowed to go heightened enough that he can just like turn into people, or at least like disguise himself.
Yeah, I
Um,
think they hit a good balance here.
this is the prototype for if Reeves does Clayface, right?
If this was his take on Clayface, I wouldn't mind still keeping that sci-fi element where he can change his face and disguise himself as other people, but not going overboard where he doesn't turn into a big monster, he doesn't make weapons and stuff, which I love. I love
That
Clayface, but
that should
I'm
be
fine with
the
this
like
take.
DCU Batman
Yeah.
Clayface.
Well,
No,
I was
this is
wondering how
closer to
they.
what I would think the Batman would do.
Yeah, for sure. And I was wondering how they go about Clayface because visually he's just Golden Age Basil Karlo, original Clayface. He didn't have powers. He didn't even really wear disguises. He just had a clay mask disguise that's a reference to a movie he was in. The Clayface powers don't come until the second one, Hagen. And visually, he just looks like Golden Age Basil Karlo Clayface, but also with the red scarf, probably as a nod to the Shadow, an old pulpy hero. But I was wondering how they go about it because they do give him powers, which the original didn't have, and also it's kind of a mix of Basil Karlo, Golden Age Clayface, and Preston Plain Clayface from the Bronze Age, who's my favorite from the comics. Where that Clayface, his motivation is he was born deformed, and to society norms, isn't an attractive person and wants to find a way to be able to change his face to look attractive to win the heart of this woman. So they incorporate that element, and there's a scene that plays out very similarly where he gets the procedure and it works with his face starts to melt, and it's awesome. But they also tone this down where he's more like who Clayface is partially named after. Basil Karlo, the name is riffing on Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, and Basil Rathbone, who's in a bunch of other 30s movies, like including Son of Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. But his appearance-wise, their take on him felt very Karloff inspired, where he's this popular thespian actor who everyone says is great, but gets typecast as villains a lot because he's not like a traditional looking leading handsome man, which is very sad, even though he's this brilliant actor. So everything about Clayface, how they mix those two versions, just worked for me. And it's also a giallo film where he's running around killing people, and it's great.
And this is written by Rucka.
Yep.
So of course it's a Montoya episode. I like their Montoya a lot. That's not a character I know a whole lot. I think I've read a little bit of where she becomes the Question, and then I've read a couple of like one-off Batman's or Batwoman stories where they're dating, but that's not a character that I know super well because like Nolan doesn't really do Montoya. Like you get Ramirez, which is kind of a Montoya stand-in, but she's also like a background character.
She's also corrupt, so I get why. Since they go in a different direction, I get changing her name for that.
Yeah. Well, that didn't stop them with Flass. Because he's not corrupt in Nolan's movies.
Are you thinking of someone else? Because Flasson begins.
No, I'm not Flass. Sorry. What is that guy's name? The Chief.
Oh, Loeb.
Loeb, yes. They just do Loeb, but he's not really. He's not corrupt.
Really corrupt in the movies.
Not Flass. No, Flass is corrupt, but I love Flass because it's that actor, and he's hilarious.
Yes.
What, you never had falafel? I really like Renee Montoya and Caped Crusader. I feel like Caped Crusader gives her more to do than animated series did.
That's true.
That's probably true. I haven't seen enough of that.
Well,
it's kind of the inverse, right? Like animated series is very Bullock heavy. Yes. And this is very Montoya heavy, where Bullock is kind of in the background, like a side character that is just annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Montoya gets like one really strong episode early in animated series, POV, where she's kind of the main character of that episode. But then for the rest of that show, she's just kind of pushed to the background, and we'll get like a moment occasionally, but she doesn't get a lot of focus. So here, she gets a lot more character development, and obviously stuff that they couldn't do on that show.
Yeah, you have her kissing girls in animated series, people really lose their minds.
Yep.
So, and what I like about this episode is it's a real mystery. Which again, I can't help but just feel that's a Reeves thing. Because he obviously, he made a very detective movie, Batman. And it's hard to say how involved he is in this overall. I'm just speculating. But like this feels like a concept episode for a Reeves Batman movie.
I would love that. Yeah, it reminds you like, oh right, we don't get a lot of murder mysteries episodes of Batman because most of them are made for children who can't do murder mysteries. That's why Mask of the Phantasm stands out because hey, actual plot about a serial killer.
Even
So
though
that
it's debatable that's a mystery. I think everybody in that movie is just stupid, but
sure. Well, and did the fake out get you? Because we're doing these different twists on all these characters, I did wonder for a minute, like, oh, are we actually killing off Basil Carlo and going in a different direction? I was very satisfied with where we went with that.
I did fall for that just because Bruce Timm is not against like introducing another version of a character as a red herring, and then like, oh, the actual one is this other version. But I also don't know any of the other clay faces.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, Basil Carlo, he's probably going to be like a red herring because isn't that who Clayface is in animated series?
No, that was Matt Hagen.
Oh, okay.
That's the second one.
See, I don't know anything. There's too many clay faces. Simplify it.
Too many clay faces. They've tried.
But no, and I thought that was a cool way to kind of throw you off because it's the Giallo thing, right? You think you know who the killer is because it's really fucking obvious, and then they throw the red herring. You're like, is it that obvious? And then by the end, you've gone full circle. It's like, yes, it was that fucking obvious. That's awesome.
It's so brilliant and so simple and would be perfect for a movie where it's like, oh, some of his victims, one of his victims he killed. He used the putty, the clayface material to change their face to make him look like Basil Carlo, so people think Basil Carlo is dead. That's how he fakes his death, and then keeps killing people and impersonating them. Like that's just really clever.
And I think that was a great idea to make this the second episode. The first episode, you kind of get a grounded, street level mobster episode, and then immediately you move into the like pseudoscience. Like, yes, there's clay that can turn into people, and this guy that looks like a rotting skeleton is Clayface. Maybe they should have done the ghost episode a little sooner. Just set that. I don't know. I don't care about the ghost guy. Like, it's not interesting.
It's not my favorite portrayal of him. I love him in other stuff. I'm biased because I love Tillman Ghost, but I was just happy to see him here.
That's fair.
But I do like though that this show and its 10 episodes, like, okay, you get your sci-fi episode, you get your ghost episode, you get your vampire kind of episode. I like that we get to dip in a few different genres just at this one season.
The Nocturne thing also made me laugh because I never heard of her until like a week ago. I don't remember if I told you this, but Josh asked to do, or Doolittle, sorry, asked to do the Nocturne issues, and then the show came out and does Nocturne. So I had no basis. Yeah.
Well, and that one's interesting though because that's a villain Bruce Timm wanted. That's a big one Tim wanted to use on animated series and wasn't allowed to. Although his take on her, because vampires, I guess they could have gone the whatever they did with Morbius in that Spider-Man episode.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's interesting though because he really ages her down. Like she's a lot older in the comic, and here they make her more of a child. So that's kind of that was interesting that they put that twist on her. But back to episode 2.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you really want to cover on this other than just the fact that it's an awesome Giallo episode?
No, I'll just rattle off some like movie references I noticed.
Okay.
Our damsel in distress of this episode, her death trap is this pendulum, which is obviously a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's Pit in the Pendulum, which was adapted in a movie version with a bunch of his other stories called The Raven that had Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi in it. I still need to see that one. But
did you just say Bela Lugosi?
Bela Lugosi.
It's Bela Lugosi.
Oh, I say Bela. I've said Bela and Bela. I don't know which one's the correct one.
I've never heard anybody say that before. I was like, wait, what?
I don't know which one's the correct one. Somebody in the comments will correct me. I still need to see that movie. Also, when you're seeing some of the studio filming set, there's a reference to Little Europe, the iconic part of the backlot at Universal Studios, where all those monster movies were. There's a guy dressed up as the Lon Chaney character from an iconic lost silent film called London After Midnight. Like, you've never seen it because the movie's gone, but you've seen that picture before. This guy with white hair and like sharp teeth, played by Lon Chaney, who's one of the inspirations for Clayface. The idea of the man who wears clay, with the makeup and different things that he pioneered. So yeah, just a lot of Clayface and movie love in this episode, and it was made for me. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
and
no.
a villain I'd love to see in season 2. I hope he's one of the villains they bring back.
I do hope this show has the reoccurring villains, because that's one of the things that the advantage of doing TV shows, you don't have to kill every villain off.
Sure.
On to episode 3, which has a few different writers, but most noticeably, this is a story for both Brubaker and Tim. And from what I've seen, this is a better Catwoman than anything in animated series.
Similar to Penguin, I love that Catwoman. She's voiced perfectly by Adrienne Barbeau, but she just doesn't get a lot of great episodes. There's one pretty good one with Scarface. I like that one a lot. But most of her episodes are just fine. This one's really good. And unlike that show, a big thing that just kills their Catwoman from the start in that show is, for some reason, her first appearance is kind of handicapped by this other new villain they introduced called Red Claw, who everyone hates. And it's like, okay, this is our big Catwoman two-parter, but also here's this new villain we're more interested in called Red Claw. And it kind of, the Catwoman character suffers for it for like the rest of that show, just because there's not a great solid foundation there. But here, nope, we get just a really good Catwoman episode that's probably better than any of the Catwoman episodes in the show. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. I think, so real quick, I want to address Anime Fan says, so far, Caped Crusader has had several recurring villains, including Arnold, Flash, Harvey Bullock, Two-Face, and Rupert Thorne. Rupert Thorne is a background character. He's not like a main antagonist yet. Two-Face is only in Two-Face is only Two-Face for 2 episodes and then dies. He can't be reoccurring. That's the literal opposite of reoccurring. When we say reoccurring, it's you show up for an episode, you disappear for a little bit, and then you come back. Like, you in season 2, you do another Clayface episode, or you do another Catwoman episode, or a Harley Quinn episode.
Well, that's a good segue, though, to talk about the structure of the show, which I think is really solid, because we knew about all these villains, but I didn't know how they'd go about it. I really enjoyed this through line of the mob plot and the corruption in Gotham, and the characters, like the police force, as what carries us from episode to episode. But then as kind of a background B plot, but then our A plots for each episode are for the costume villains, and those are treated as the one-offs. Like Two-Face gets 2 episodes, but you get Firebug for an episode, you get Catwoman for an episode, you get Clayface for an episode.
Who, can I just say, Firebug confused me as I was watching it. I was like, don't you mean Firefly?
Nope. Firebug, he's real.
But she's Firefly.
This is a real villain from the comics.
What is the difference?
He has a different name. He's called Joe Rigger or something. He was in
whoa! You can't say that.
No, I thought that was great. How do you not know Firebug? He was for some reason a boss villain in Batman the movie, the game, from 1989. And he's been in nothing else since.
Because I wasn't alive to play Batman the movie, the game. I know Firefly.
But they make that joke, though, where somebody calls him Firefly. He's like, it's Firebug, actually. No one remembers.
Yeah, no, I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
he's so obscure, he wasn't referenced in an Arkham game. That's why no one knows about Firebug.
Pretty much.
But back to Catwoman.
And we should mention she is voiced amazingly by Christina Ricci.
Perfect casting. That was Christina Ricci. That's the casting that excited me the most, because I was like, perfect.
I mean, I'd argue she could do it in a live action thing.
Yeah, she's excellent.
Yeah, no, she's great. The thing that really makes this Catwoman stand out for me, other than the fact that I hate her costume, um, is this is the only time I've seen Catwoman be a direct parallel to Bruce,
Mm.
or I get maybe not parallel, but like a foil, like direct foil. Like these two come from the same place.
Yes.
And I like the like
enjoyed the
anti
spoiler
Alfred,
Yes. Shrink her maid,
the
that was fun.
the maid that just like hates her guts.
Well, we're really used to this modern take on Catwoman that starts with Miller, you know, the one who grows up in the slums of Gotham, is a prostitute, but works people, and has to be a thief to survive, which is great, and we've seen done well a lot. But I did like this kind of throwback take on her, where it's like, nah, she's just a thief because she likes it. They really leaned into the kleptomaniac angle. Like, no, she just has this compulsion to steal things.
But she's also not stealing just because yeah, she
But
does.
she is starting to lose her money. That is true.
Well, the basis of the episode is that she's already lost her fortune because her dad was obtained it illegally.
But I think they mentioned in the episode that she does have a history of this. Like they do, like they refer to her as a kleptomaniac. I think this does predate her.
No, there is, because Bruce, in one of my favorite moments, says things have a tendency of disappearing around you.
Yeah.
Because this is where we get the obligatory Pearl reference.
Yeah, well, this is where we touch on the origin and their take on it. I like how they show the Wayne murder without showing it.
That's not this episode.
I thought that was this one.
No, that's the therapy.
Isn't that?
Wait, is this the therapy episode?
Yeah, because remember that guy is making that crack when he sees the pearls about like Martha Wayne.
Yeah, you're
for it. And then Bruce punches him out. It's like the first time we see him lose his cool as Bruce Wayne, and then he has to go to therapy.
No, you're right, because 4 is Firebug.
Yeah.
And then 5 is the Harley Quinn episode. No, you're right. So this is the origin episode, which is an even better way to show. That was the perfect way to do it, right? The therapy is like getting to talk about it. This is the most traumatized Bruce Wayne as a child I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is.
No, like he is out of it. That's a good point. Anime fan says, "I wonder if her father will be revealed to be Carmine Falcone in season 2."
They could go that route if they wanted to bring Falcone in.
I think the only problem with that would be she specifically goes by Kyle, and this Selena knows her father.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Unless she took her mom's name, but that would be weird.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm also fine with them just not doing that. I never needed that connection.
But this episode is where we get our take on Dr. Harleen Quinzel, voiced by Jamie Chung, and I think she does a really good job. I think this episode sets up this version of Dr. Quinzel really well. I think this was a cool take, having her be Bruce Wayne's therapist, like before we see her as Harley Quinn. I thought that was a cool idea.
I think that is cool. I'm not gonna knock the voice actors, because I think the voice actress is doing very well with the take. Harley Quinn is the most out of any of them that change for the sake of change. Like, okay, what was the animated series Harley? She's very energetic, a little bit dumb. Okay, a lot dumb, and kind of annoying. What are we gonna make this new Harley Quinn? She is very monosyllabic, kind of detached, and we're gonna reveal that she's Discount Jigsaw at the end of episode 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fine. I like the stuff surrounding the her episode more than her herself. And I don't even mind if it was like she starts out that monosyllabic when she's Harleen Quinzel. But also I have a question, and it's gonna sound a little insensitive, so I'll save it for when we get to episode 5. And then you get her to a place where she is, the more like energetic, kind of crazy Harley. I just needed something more than monosyllabic Harley Quinn. Like, who asked for that?
Yeah, I was like, so that's probably his favorite episode, but I was fine with it.
But it was funny to see that it is. No, this episode I think is a great like Harleen Quinzel episode. Okay, so I'll ask this here then. Okay, so Harleen Quinzel is already an out there name for like a white woman in the show. Do you believe that Asian couple named their child Harleen Quinzel?
I don't know. I'm not an expert. No comment.
Like that just thought came to me. It was like, well, wait a minute, you changed that, but like, would that make sense for her to be named that?
She could be mixed race. I
And then, like, would her parents name her that?
don't know. I haven't
And why
known
is
many
it
people
believable that
named
white people would
Harleens.
name their child Harleen Quinzel? Well, no, you know what? I'm gonna fight back on this a little bit because her parents' last name would have to be Quinzel. How many Asian people
Her
do you,
dad's, presumably.
her dad's last name? And let's assume that he's it, if she's mixed, is which I don't think she is. But is his then his name is last name is Quinzel? Anime fan, I feel like you're overthinking the name. Okay, so I'm gonna resist that a little bit because so here's the thing. Yes, I am, but I feel like we should expect if you're going to make these changes, you need to think about that stuff. I don't think it's too much to ask. If you're gonna do a change, think it through. Does this make sense?
It's such a heightened world that I really don't care.
I don't know. That's also a nitpick. That's the least of my issues with that take. It's just fundamentally not Harley Quinn. Um, but no, and I like how bad Catwoman is at like everything.
Keeping her identity,
Even her identity, escaping Batman. But no, my favorite. This has my two favorite Batman moments in this whole show. I love the one where she kisses him and he's like, "You're wasting my time" or something like that. And at the end, he's like, "Gotham is free of her nonsense."
They even say like she'll be back. Like that. That's when I'd be pretty. I'm pretty sure we'll get another Catwoman episode in season 2. Just where they say, yeah, she'll be back. And then, but I do like the way she gets more comic booky and escalates throughout the episode. Because first she's like, I want gadgets, so then she starts using weapons, and then she customizes her car to make the Catmobile or whatever it's called.
And that the Catmobile was great.
That was great. And at the end, they don't. I don't think they explain this, and I don't care. She just gets a Black Panther to attack him. It's just so comic book Catwoman. I love it. Where it's like, and where Batman's like, I didn't think I'd be doing this today.
Although I don't know if you had this for the first time I watched that episode. I thought because she says she makes a comment about the Batmobile, right? Like, I want one or something like that. So I thought she was gonna steal the Batmobile. And then she shows up with the Catmobile, and I was like, did she steal the Batmobile and like modify it? I don't know if you had that, but that is a thought that I had for a minute.
No, I because she has a line about like customizing her own cars. She says it to her maid, so that didn't throw me off.
Yeah, the maid that despises her.
Yeah, no, this is a Catwoman who's just making Bruce's day really hard, and I really enjoyed that.
No, and it's really smart to introduce Catwoman this early with a Batman that doesn't give a fuck about like romance or, you know, anything.
Yeah, and you don't like the costume, but it's 40s. It's very classic. If you want more classic takes on villains, but this is.
I think you can update that a little bit. Like, I think it doesn't have to be that aesthetic.
And then also we get a cameo, I think, in this episode from Eel O'Brien, who's a photographer here. That's Plastic Man in the comics. I don't think they're going to go that route in the show, but there's so many DC cameos in the show. I don't know what's set up or what's just meant to be cameos, but he's also voiced by Tom Kenny, who also voices Firebug and voices Plastic Man in Batman the Brave and Bold. So that was fun for me. But when they said his name, O'Brien, I was like, that sounds familiar. Brian. there are so many just DC Universe characters that
Well,
pop
you
up
must
throughout the
also
show.
be
It's really cool.
excited that Brave and the Bold Batman is Harvey Dent.
And DJ Vader, yeah, and I think he does a good job.
I think he's okay. They underplay Harvey too much in this. Like, I think we'll get to it, but I think the Burnside needed to be needed something else.
No,
How'd you feel about the Batmobile, by the way?
I liked it. It's very simple, obviously very 40s. It looks like some of his older cars, except his first car in the comic was red, but they keep it black here. So it's kind of a mix of a couple different designs. It's not my favorite, but I thought it was fine.
I love that in the first episode, I forgot to mention this. He just hits people with the damn thing.
Yes. Yeah, that was very violent, reckless Batman.
Yeah. Pennyworth. I found a vampire. It's an angel. On to episode 4, which I don't have a lot to say about. Because I think it's the only one of those that doesn't have like a villain for him to take down. He spends most of it avoiding the police. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't take down Firebug.
That's true. Yeah, there's a little bit of year 1 sprinkled in here with
no, it's almost comical. Like they're setting up all these elaborate traps, and like none of them realize.
Part of the episode's great.
None of them realize. Oh, he knows what you're doing because he's not stupid.
Yeah. That part's great.
It's like a Tom and Jerry episode for a minute.
Trying to fake these crimes for him to thwart, and it's like, wait, what are we doing?
I love that he actually does stop one.
Mm-hmm. And then he just leaves.
And he just leaves. No, like he's trolling him a little bit. Mm-hmm.
And then, this is a big Bullock and Flass episode where we start to kind of flesh them out more in this show with what they're doing in this.
How did you feel about them making Bullock corrupt?
Not a big fan. That's one of the choices I'm not gelling as much with.
I'm right there with you.
I was hoping we would give him more of an arc, and maybe that's coming in season 2. But it really felt setting up a potential redemption story for Bullock, so that's why I was kind of more on board or wait and see with this more corrupt angle. I kept waiting for a character arc that didn't happen. That maybe is coming in season 2. We'll get more into it in the finale. But that's one
I feel like you get a brief glimpse of almost hesitation when they're going to kill Firebug. Mm-hmm. And then it never comes back.
And the way that scene is shot and framed, it makes you think that what they're probably going to do is, maybe it's Flass that shot him, because we don't see Bullock shoot him. We cut away, but then we see Bullock in the window, so I thought we were doing a misdirection there, but nope. Bullock shot him, I guess, and doesn't feel bad about it. Yeah, that's disappointing. That's one of my least favorite.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
I think his voice well. John DiMaggio, perfect casting.
How did I not realize that was DiMaggio?
He had a couple inflections where I was like, wait, I think that's
it. It doesn't sound like, because DiMaggio usually, even though if he's doing different characters, he has like a tone.
There's Bender.
And yeah, his Joker's really bad about it. As much as I love his Joker,
yeah,
it's like I can hear the Bender and like the Marcus Phoenix. Anime fan, it implies that Flask is the more corrupt of the two, and that Bullock's basically sidekick. Yeah, I mean we get that, but like,
there's just not an ending.
That also feels like you're just doing that because he was the good cop in animated series, or I don't know if good cop, but like. He was kind of Gordon's sidekick in that show. So, like, what do we do to make it different?
He grows rogue a few times. There's a few stories, like in Phantasm, where he's really going after Batman. But, yeah, most of the time he's...
I also can't figure out this show's timeline. So we've got a fully grown Barbara Gordon who is a lawyer.
Who's a public defender.
Yeah. Public defender. That's a lawyer.
Yeah.
A Gordon that's commissioner, and then we've got Batman operating assumably for a couple years. but no supervillains.
That's pretty common. I'm just used to that. That's what the Batman does. Because in the Batman, he's been Batman for 3
But
years.
Gordon's
but
not
now
commissioner.
supervillain. Well, yeah, but he's still been Batman for 3 years, and now supervillains.
I don't mind.
Up, so.
Right, I don't mind that part. It's just weird to have Gordon already be commissioner before any of that stuff happens.
That's fair because we're so used to that, like with the Bronze Age version,
especially like
version.
The whole city's in on the take, except Gordon. Why would they name Gordon commissioner?
Well, but they see later that he's set up to be kind of a fall guy, or they're like, okay, you're in charge, but really Bullock and Flass are real guys getting stuff done. We just want you behind a desk.
That's not what that is. That is, I'm taking the task force away from you and giving it to them. Mm-hmm. That's not, you're going to take the fall for everything. That's just for the Batman stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. That didn't bother me just because in the Golden Age, in Batman's very first appearance, Gordon's already commissioner, and that's an early starting out Batman. So that's what they're going for. So I think that's fine. I get what you're saying, though.
That's fine, just from a logic point. Like, if the whole city's in on the take, why would you appoint the one guy that's not to be the commissioner?
Mm-hmm. But also, what you're talking about with supervillains, I mean, we do get Firebug, and who's presumably been doing this. That's
not a supervillain. That's discount Firefly.
How dare you? Everyone loves Firebug.
Nobody knows who that is.
Yes, he was in Batman the movie, the video game.
You're the only person that knows that. No, sorry. That's probably you true. And Cap are the only people that know that.
Yeah, he's like, for some reason, one of the 5 villains in the game. They picked Firebug to be one of their bosses.
Also, I think this is where we get set up the Montoya and Harley Quinn date, which I think is another criticism I might throw at the show a little bit. It's a little rushed because of the episode count, right? You immediately set up the Harley Quinn and Harley and Montoya date, and then the next episode is the big Harley Quinn episode. I think that needed some setup.
That's fair. The pacing never bothered me. I thought the episode count was fine. Do you just want to get to episode 5 since we're there?
Yeah, because honestly, 4 is just kind of like it's good, but not a lot happens.
Yeah, but man, the stuff with them trying to trick and trap Batman, like that stuff's great.
That's the best part.
And it's got a good.
It's like, you idiots! Who would fall for that?
My issue more with the Harley episode is, for some reason, we're giving a lot of focus to this date with Montoya and then Harleen, but then when we get to the third act, we shift focus and make it about Barbara and reminding the audience, oh right, Barbara and Dr. Quinzel are friends. And isn't it really sad that Barbara's losing one of her closest friends? And it makes the Montoya Harleen subplot just feel kind of nothing. Like, that was kind of pointless. Like, you think you have Montoya in the climax of that episode, right?
Yeah.
Like, although she'd be more the focus.
Maybe what you should have done, and I don't think you would have done this just because this is a Brubaker show, although he didn't write this episode. Maybe you should have just made it, instead of Montoya, just make it Barbara.
That'd make a lot of people angry, dude.
Have you seen the internet?
Yeah.
People are angry anyway.
That's true.
But this does have that nice moment at the end where Bruce starts out probably a little too harsh for somebody that just lost a good friend. And then, like, you have that moment where he realizes he's being too harsh. Actually, like, shows a bit of humanity for arguably the first time in this series. So that was a nice touch. And it starts to set up, like, oh, maybe these two are going to be friends or whatever.
Yes, and Harley's a villain. We can be pretty sure it's going to be in season 2 because she's one who.
Which is going to be weird with that cliffhanger.
Right, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. what they do. But there's some fun stuff in this episode. You get a reference to King Tut from the '60s show. I enjoyed that.
Which did nothing for me.
I enjoyed this take of her being this evil psychiatrist who's like driving her patients.
Okay,
insane.
but she's just Jigsaw. She's just Jigsaw, but not as cool Jigsaw.
That's true.
It's like the Wish.com version of Jigsaw.
It's my least favorite episode of the season. It didn't do a lot for me, but there's some okay stuff here.
No, I like the that she traps Batman in that cage with the gas. And like that's the big cliffhanger for a moment. And then Barb comes in and is like, no, free him. And she's like, okay. And pushes a button.
I was yelling at the TV, like, Barbara, stop hitting that with the bat. There's a bunch of switches. Start flipping switches.
That was really like 90s animated series show, right? Like, just keep beating it. Anime fan says, I love the subtle reference to the two Batman actors from the 40s, Arlene Montoya and Renee Montoya, to meet her on Wilson and Laurie. Wait, oh,
gotcha.
Wait, what? Arlene Montoya told Renee Montoya to meet her.
A street name or a location.
Wilson and Laurie.
Wilson and Laurie.
They do that a couple of times because there's another one.
There's a lot of, and I don't remember which episode each one's from, but there's a lot of Batman references in this. Like there is a reference to Stromwell, who's a gangster in a couple episodes of animated series. There's also a Grey Ghost reference. I don't know if you caught that. Alfred's reading a book in one episode, and it's like Trials of the Grey Ghost or something.
I did not catch that.
Lots of Easter eggs in the show.
No, No, it's all good. It's just it like caught me up for a second. There was because I noticed one of the street ones. I can't remember what street it was. I was like, oh, I think that's a reference. That's the big go-to in these like in movies and shit, right? Like you name the street after someone.
Mm-hmm. That's really common in these shows.
I so wanted Barbara to go, you killed Captain Clown? Oh, man.
I don't have much more to say about that episode. It's my least favorite, but I thought it was fine.
It was fine.
So now on to your least favorite episode.
Yeah, which I'm not going to have a lot to say about.
It's the Gentleman Ghost episode. I like Gentleman Ghost.
He robs poor people for some reason.
I did enjoy, though, Bruce's arc in this one. Where he's like, I don't believe in ghosts. And at the end, he's like, all right, I kind of believe in ghosts now.
I had a question, though, about the end, because he just hands the ghost over to the guy in the white suit. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, what are you going to do with him? And he's like, you don't want to know. He's like, yeah, probably not.
I probably don't.
I feel like Bruce would want to make sure that nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah, who is that guy? Oh, he's from the Hellblazer comics. Papa Midnight.
That's cool. I don't know if you saw the Constantine show, but he's in that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that nobody but me watched, but
yeah, I should have watched it.
Yeah, it's your fault that it got canceled.
That is true. But they brought him back in Legends of Tomorrow, so happy ending.
I don't know. I feel like there was something that I liked in this episode, but for the life of me, I don't know what it was.
Good Alfred stuff.
Good Alfred episode. And I don't hate this episode by any means. It kind of went in one ear, not the other.
There's also a scene at the end where the ghost is possessing Alfred. He's like, "Oh, you've got a secret. There's something you hold on." So I wonder what that's setting up.
Okay. So what I did like about this is the first time that Bruce shows any kind of like concern or give a shit about Alfred.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Danger episode.
And it's weird because when Alfred gets possessed, it becomes really melodramatic. He's like, "You have to kill me, sir, before it makes me kill you." And I'm like, really? That's what we're going with this? But then they like sober up and Batman's like, I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this job without you, Alfred. But he was going to say, like, it felt like he was going to say something else. So I like that they paid attention to that details. Like, he's concerned, but he hasn't changed enough to show concern or show a visible, state that he's concerned. Anime fan, I can tell you right now, he was not unintentionally responsible for the death of the Waynes.
I am worried about that though, where it's like, okay, I think this season covers the origin well enough. I hope we're past it. We don't need to keep checking back in on the origin in season 2.
I have a theory. What if it's Hush?
I'd be down for that. We know Matt Reeves has talked. I mean, he's talked about Hush a lot. Like, if he doesn't do Hush in one of his movies, maybe he'll use Hush here. I'd be fine with that.
I really don't need him to do Hush in the Batman because that would feel like a repeat of the Riddler.
Right, and it'd feel like a waste of a movie. Like, we get 3 Matt Reeves movies. Let's not waste. We get 2 more. Let's not waste one of them on Hush.
But you could do Hush here and do something cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's a good theory.
Or what if the secret is that Alfred is his father?
No. You ever read a comment called Trouble? Where we're gonna do that, but for Batman.
What?
You've never heard of the Spider-Man story Trouble?
Oh,
that's a different car. Pin in that.
I went for the Star Wars reference, and you went like the other way.
So you haven't read the comic where the twist is that Uncle Ben was Peter's biological father?
No.
Oh God!
I didn't know that was a thing.
Later. Oh yeah. Surprisingly, fans hated it. I'm not sure why. But yeah, fans hated it, and we don't talk about it anymore.
I should have just stuck with it. But yeah, I don't know. This episode's fine. I think this episode also suffers the most from what is a cool idea of like Batman's kind of just a wraith in the background. Like, this is very much urban legend Batman. But when you have an episode like this where the villain's a little bit weaker and arguably none of the supporting cast that you set up has much to do, you're kind of just waiting for that final showdown at the end.
Yeah, this is not one of the best episodes. But again,
I also question.
Really enjoy this format.
I also I question, like, do ghosts fit with the universe they've set up here?
I think they do. I didn't question it. I hope we get more supernatural stuff in season 2.
Well,
because a lot of those old pulpy stuff did have ghosts, vampires, werewolves, zombies, early zombies. So I that didn't bother me.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this episode before we move on? Good stuff.
Nope.
On to episode 7, which I think might be my second favorite episode.
This one's great.
Probably maybe third. I don't know. It's hard because I really love the Clayface episode, but it's not like thematically as rich. Whereas like this episode is really thematically interesting. The Nocturna episode is classic TAS style writing. So like I like these episodes more, even though like as just like a piece. Even though I love the Clayface episode, it's probably my third favorite episode.
Okay, it's a good one. This is an introduction to Onomatopoeia for a lot of people.
He's great.
Arrow villain. And how did we make an 8-season long Arrow show and never use this guy?
Awesome. Because it was on the CW. Wait, did they never do Onomatopoeia?
No, I mean, but that showed serial killers, and like they could have done this guy. That showed a lot of Moida.
Wait. I think you're wrong.
Oh, was he? Was he in one like one shitty episode of that show?
Oh, okay. Never mind. This is a cop out. Okay. So all I saw was there was a wiki page for the Arrowverse Onomatopoeia. He is in the Arrow season 2.5 comic, issue 12.
That's as canon as Smallville season 11.
Season 11 is canon, damn it. No, I hope not. No, he's great. That shouldn't work in this tone, but it does.
That's the dark comedy that the show really nails.
Yeah, but I think this is the most
It's so
like just
goofy.
straight up comedic episode they've done.
My
But
my
no, I
favorite
like.
part.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, my favorite part's the ending when Batman punches him and it's something like "pow," which is a great
No, it's
reference to the
great.
'60s show. It's perfect. Like
No,
that's where
it's
you get more of that humor and that like humanity coming in with this Batman, where he's like, "I just did that for me, but it was really funny. I couldn't resist."
anime fan. I'll rewind what we're talking about. So it's also possible that Alfred hired Joe to get rid of Thomas and May. Okay, they are
Oh
not
God, I
going
hope they
to.
don't do that.
They're not going to do that. Alfred was behind the Wayne's death.
He seemed pretty surprised in that flashback. We see him
Um,
like at the car and he hears the gunshot.
this
He
this
seemed
has an
surprised.
all-star creative team. Even if like Brubaker is leaving, I think it's Brubaker. We still got Rocka, we've got Matt Reeves, and we've got Bruce Timm. They're not going to do that. Is the insanity of Alfred was responsible for the Wayne's murder.
I hope
But we
not.
will do some season 2 speculation and like what once at the end. Um, but no, I like the driving force behind this episode. Uh, being like the difference in how Barbara and Jim see the justice system. And I don't think either one of
Yes,
them is
that stuff's
wrong.
great. Mm-hmm. It's
And
about corruption.
I think at the end of the day, they are both proven wrong. Because like Barbara has shown that some people do belong in prison, but Gordon is also proven wrong. It's like, yeah, you can't just face the mob, like because they have that really great moment where he's like, no, I'm just gonna stay at home. And then she's like, yeah, but your neighbors.
You're putting your neighbors at risk, or because of your pride. Like that is selfish. And also, see cameos. We get a cameo from Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot, at the beginning of this episode. That's fun, even though this take on Deadshot is that he's a shitty shot. So
Wait, that was
probably not
Deadshot?
gonna use. Yeah, so that's kind of lame, but I appreciated the Easter egg. But yeah, they're probably not bringing him back. Yeah, he's the assassin at the start of the episode. They say his name is Floyd Lawton.
That's lame.
Yeah, not one of their best cameos.
Oh, you got Deadshot needs to be like in a full episode. There's so much potential there.
I agree. Deadshot's great.
And I like the twist at the end that the cop that's been with him the whole time is also in for the bounty, and it's not the bounty isn't James, it's Barbara.
That's great. I was disappointed it was Jim Corrigan. That was a bummer for me because he is.
Wait, that's who that is?
Yeah, he's the Spectre in the comics, who is awesome, and I love him. I was really hoping we were setting up some Spectre stuff because he's in a few episodes, but no, he's a corrupt cop, so that was kind of disappointing for me. Although there is a version of him in the comic that was corrupt, but then instead we made Christmas Allen Spectre, so I'd be fine with going that route, but first you need to put him in the show because that's one of our big like Gotham Central characters who's not in the show yet is Christmas Allen, so. I'd like some Spectre at some point because the Spectre's awesome. So that I just felt like, okay, you got Harvey Bullock and Jim Corrigan, both characters I like. Can you pick one of them to be corrupt? Because having them be corrupt is kind of disappointing as a fan of these characters. But that's one of my main gripes with the show.
That's fair.
Like just pick one of them.
Yeah, I mean, also I think at some point they're gonna have to tackle that. Like, I think that goes into the problem of naming Gordon commissioner, but the police force is still corrupt. Like, at some point they have to root that out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe he's not gonna get a lot of focus season 2. But otherwise, really good episode.
Really strong. I didn't know about the Anime fan Deadshot just having a cameo makes sense to me. After all, King Tut has just had a cameo. Okay, but those two things are not on the same level. I understand that people like the '60s Batman and like that character. Deadshot is like a consistent Batman villain.
He also fits the tone of the show more and feels like when you could do a lot with. And a villain they couldn't really use on animated series. You couldn't have a guy with guns
Yeah,
killing people being his thing. Like you couldn't do that on the animated series. So
yeah.
it seems like
It's
a villain
like
you could do a lot with on the show.
I don't want to sound like dismissive, but not many people know of King Tut unless you've seen that show. Like Deadshot has been in things and like it's popular.
Yeah,
It just seems like a waste to have him in a cameo. Um, but no, isn't Deadshot a small villain outside of Squad stuff?
Well,
Oh,
he's
but
bigger now for Suicide Squad. Like he's not a top 10 Batman villain.
okay, but if
But
you have to
he's
say,
pretty cool.
except isn't he a smaller villain outside of this popular thing that he is popular in? Then that answers
Right.
your question. um, I don't really have anything else to say with 7. We can just move on to 8, which is Nocturne.
Yeah.
Which
Who's
goes
your
cameo
favorite?
crazy, which I have questions about because I think even if you're not at the moment being like, maybe we're not going to do Robin, maybe having all of them just be cameos in your first season is a mistake because then you're stuck with that if you ever change your mind.
Mhm. Yeah, or unless you just pick a different Robin.
Or I feel hope it just turns into like that's the Robin farm. Like one dies and then he just like gets another one.
Just yeah, exactly. Well, because the first one we see is Dick Grayson, who they call Dickie, and it's like just the TAS design when you see flashbacks. So it's almost jarring because like their Bruce Wayne and their Alfred all look so different from their TAS counterparts. No, this Dick Grayson is just how Dick Grayson looked on that show in flashbacks. So that was kind of jarring. And then they kind of fake you out, thinking that they may have just killed him off, but they don't. This episode doesn't go all the way, which I appreciate. They could have gone harder than they did because now they're fine. Batman can still recruit him. But yeah, you get Dick Grayson, you get Jason Todd, who has red hair in this. That's fun.
And he gets
Then you get
Stephanie Brown, I think.
Stephanie Brown, and then the last one, the one who gets the most attention is Carrie Kelly. Which is weird that the one you give the most potential and like potential Robin setup to is Carrie Kelly, the Dark Knight Returns Robin, where like that could be the Robin in the show in season 2 or 3. So that's a weird choice, but I'm fine with it because Carrie Kelly's great. I liked her in this episode. They give her the slingshot. That's fun.
Yeah, no, the slingshot was great, and for me, who missed some of their introductions, but I knew that like there was an episode with all the Robins. That was a great way to tell me, yeah, this is Carrie Kelly. The Stephanie Brown one caught me off guard just because we don't really acknowledge her as Robin in anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it's cool that these aren't just like kid sidekicks. Like these have all been Robin at some point specifically, which is why omitting Tim is kind of weird. You'd think that they'd have Tim there.
Yeah.
Unless the thinking was, well, Tim Drake wasn't originally an orphan in the comics, but neither was Carrie Kelly, so I don't know.
Anime fan says I like how Nocturne basically evil version of Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, let's just do Nocturne, but make her look like Wednesday. She's aged out a lot, which is an interesting choice, but for the story they told in this episode, I thought they made it work. And I think her older brother is voiced by Haley Joel Osment. That's so
yes,
random.
I saw that. He's been in a couple things. Right? He's in The Boys.
He is. He's very good on that. Yeah, he's still acting. Good for him. He pops up in some stuff now and then. This is just so random, but
Yeah, no, it's weird. And this was also refreshing because this is a villain that I didn't know anything about, but fits in that Batman world. Because it is a vampire, but it's like all science. It's not magic.
Yeah, they say she has like this particular condition. Is how they describe it.
Yeah, they should have just called this Morbid Time. She should have been after plasma.
Yeah, well, and there is this rare real life disease though with people who are affected and allergic to sunlight, like who can die if they're exposed to too much sunlight. So it's like taking that, but also for some reason she has the power to take in people's souls and drain their energy. It's fine. But she doesn't actually kill anyone. That's the important distinction. Speaking of which, a big concern a lot of people had going into the show, why a lot of people were kind of cautious, was, oh no, it's going to be Bruce Timm unrestrained. It's going to be way too adult and edgy and graphic. I thought this was really tame, all things considered. Usually in a good way. Like, this
But
is
I also
just standard PG-13 Batman stuff.
I agree. I also think the thing with Tim Unchained, I don't think that's inherently a good or bad thing. It just depends on what he's doing. Batman and Harley
Whose
Quinn,
collaborators are.
yeah. So for example, like Batman and Harley Quinn, I haven't seen it, but I know enough about it. That isn't bad just because Bruce Campbell can do whatever he wants. It's bad because he can do whatever he wants, and he. Oh, sorry. It's not bad because Bruce Timm can just do whatever he wants. It's bad because what he chose to do with that is make a weird sex thing out of it.
Yeah,
like
this
yeah,
is a very not pervy show. There's very little of that in this show. I also think the show could have had more blood. Like, I'm fine with it, but this is a very bloodless
show. This could have pushed some
for a lot of people
some envelopes more.
You see very little blood in this show, and I thought they could have, like, compare this to like some of the animated movies, like Under the Red Hood or Dark Knight Returns. Those are way more bloody and graphic than this. So for anyone concerned about that, no, this is not a hard R adult show. This is pretty accessible. Maybe not for little kids, but it's pretty standard. Like, if you read Batman comics, like, this is the tone you expect.
Mm-hmm.
We also get Leslie Tompkins in this episode, who runs the orphanage. That's a fun choice. I liked how they used Leslie here. A character who's sorely underrepresented in the movies. I'd love to see her in one of the Matt Reeves movies or something. That'd be great. Well, so with the circus freaks, we get a cameo from Killer Croc. That was cool. I like just the
terrible Killer Croc design.
Not a great design, but I like that he's just a strong guy who just has the skin condition, who just looks reptilian but isn't.
It is kind of nice that we went like back to basics, but
yeah,
like, could you clean that up a little bit?
Yeah, not one of their best, but I was just happy to see him.
Yeah, for sure. I also like that Bruce gets knocked out by the bearded lady.
that scene was so weird, but I was kind of with it, where they're like, "Why are you looking for this little girl? We're all gonna beat you up now and not question."
Yeah.
Get full context for the situation. I want you to read that. Did you think, like, oh, they know what Nocturne really is and are trying to protect her, or do you think it was a genuine misunderstanding?
I think it was a genuine misunderstanding, which was supposed to be played for comedy. Because the brother very clearly says that, like, you're not supposed to do this in front of people, or you promise you wouldn't do this again. Okay.
Yeah, I just wasn't clear on, like, if some of the other circus people were.
Anime fan Nocturne, the tragic villain, like Freeze. That's true. And they're clearly looking at that Justice League episode.
Yes, this is. If anyone's watching the show thinking Batman's a bit too cold or stiff or whatever, no. This is an important episode for his development and his humanity. He cares about children. That's a really important thing to get right. And the fact that he goes out of this way to save this demon vampire monster child it is great. It's a really nice moment.
Yeah.
Also, with cameos, this is where we get our Julie Madison cameo. This is making her reappearance since Batman and Robin in 1997. Justice for Julie Madison. She's back.
She's back.
I did think it was weird, though, that she wasn't in the Clayface episode, since they used her at all. Because in the comic, at the end of that story, she's an actress, and in his first appearance, he's trying to kill her. So I did think it was weird that we didn't put her in that episode, but then she's here. But it was still nice to see her, because she is Batman's first love interest from the comic. I think they were engaged, too. They almost went hard with that, but then it's like, nah, this isn't working. And she just leaves him, like all the women in his life. But it was nice to see her here.
And then I think the clip this is the only one that has a cliffhanger, because this is the Two-Face cliffhanger. And again, I just have questions like, why now? Is this too far? Like, who is that guy that he's supposed to be letting off of the hook?
I think the idea is that he's being more inspired by people like Barbara over the course of the show, and why he's wanting to kind of turn. I think that's at least what they're going for. That people
I
like
don't.
Barbara are getting to him and wanting to be better.
I don't know if I buy that.
Okay.
But let's just talk about 9 and 10 together. It's a two-parter. Two-Face decides to become a vigilante, which I think that is very Long Halloween. I think that's what Loeb and Sale do with that.
Yeah, he's primarily motivated by revenge.
Yeah. Um,
Although I did really enjoy though that scene where Bruce takes Harvey out in public to dinner, and he's like imagining what all the people are thinking of him and what they're whispering behind his back, and how that's when he's starting to snap. Like I thought that was a good scene. And I like this take though of Harvey being the bad side and the scarred side being like where his goodness and empathy comes out. That's a choice I wouldn't mind seeing again. I think we could have spent more time on it. But that's also, I mean, that's why they changed the side. That's why his scarred half is on the other side of his face this time, because that's the side that's supposed to elicit empathy. And I know you don't like the redesign, but I got what they were going for, because it's meant to elicit more empathy than terror, because he's designed to look more like an actual acid burn victim, like with how skin and stuff looks like if you look at real burn victims.
yeah, but I think this show is
like,
stylized enough. You could go for the.
Yeah, with the tone they were going for, it was fine for me. And Harvey's been done so well in animation, particularly in animated series. You get several great episodes there that I was fine with this different spin on Edmure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's where we differ. Is I guess I understand that we got a great one in animated series. That was also 30 years ago.
Hmm.
You, I, this is the first Batman show in a decade. Let's go back to basics. You don't have to overcomplicate things,
Yeah,
especially when you get just classic Penguin and um there's another and then we got such a arguably classic Clayface. It feels weird that these Harley Quinn and Two-Face are the two that we reinvent.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although I do like that his teeth are like all fucked up. That's not gonna show. Oh yeah, no. Nah, I kind of wanted them to do like, and I think that it would have been cooler if they had done maybe like a red to show like the skin is burned and melted. Mm-hmm. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. It was fine. It was weird to kill. Again, it's weird to kill him.
I thought his sacrifice was good. Maybe in some of those early episodes we could have spent more time on him and Barbara, that dynamic, because I think the idea is that she is kind of bringing out more of the goodness in him. But that all played fine for me, and like I said, I enjoyed this take, and I'm also fine with killing him off, just because now he's out of the way and we can do other villains moving forward. We've done Two-Face a lot, so I was fine with wrapping that up here. I also like where we take Batman, where you can tell he feels a lot of guilt over that friendship, or that manufactured friendship, that he was basically using Harvey as a pawn, and this is the first time that's really come to bite him.
Well, okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that, and this is the downside of me not getting to rewatch these two. So I'm going based on my first impressions. I like the fact that arguably Harvey did is Bruce's fault, because manufactured friendship aside, you get to the end and he's like, I'm going to take you out, get your mind off things. And he pushes him a little too far, and that's what drives him over the edge. I thought that was great. And then he doesn't really want to accept that it's his fault when Alfred just like, maybe you took this too far. And then you get that acceptance of like, if it is my fault, I gotta go fix it. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Sometimes he starts to get into Bale territory for me, but not in a bad way. It's just. I also love that he talks in the Batman voice, even to Alfred.
Oh, that's always great.
Alfred, I found an angel.
One of my favorite scenes too in the finale is after Harvey dies, when he almost Flass, you get that great moment where you get some of that golden age iconography where we get to see Batman holding a gun. Like we kind of get to go there, but still not all the way. Like he still makes a point with it by not actually shooting him, and then he throws the gun away. That's a great moment. That all totally played for me.
No, that was good. The only other thing I have to talk about is the ending. Do you want to just talk about it now?
Before we get there, can we finish hashing out the Harvey Bullock stuff?
Harvey Bullock. Wait,
Bullock
Harvey
and
Bullock.
Flass.
Oh yeah, I guess his name is Harvey Bullock.
Yeah, we got two of the main Batman characters are named Harvey, and you just
I always call Bullock just Bullock, so I was like, who the hell is Harvey Bullock?
No, well, I like the scene. I think it's Barbara. It's either Barbara or Montoya who says like, "Oh, Bullock, you think Flass is your friend, but he's really using you as the fall guy. Like you're the one who gets his hands dirty. Everyone knows you're corrupt, but Flass is the one who more in the background. He's the smarter of the two, and he's the more dangerous one." So I thought that there was some really good setup there. That's just not paid off. Like Bullock's just captured at the end. Like he's just arrested and that's it. Like it's like we were setting up an arc that we don't see through, and maybe we'll get that in season 2. But there's two places you could have gone with it. You could have either had Harvey finally turn on Flass, or what I thought they were going was that Bullock was going to be the one to testify against Thorne.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't do that because that's part of the tragedy is Harvey Dent is dead, so now he can't testify about Thorne. But then I thought Bullock was going to. I kept waiting for that redemption arc to happen, and it just never did. Maybe we're getting there in season 2, but that's probably my biggest disappointment of the show so far. It just felt like we were setting up a character arc that we didn't see through. Like, then why even bring it up, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Harvey. I can't think of Harvey Dent without that now.
Yeah. Oh, and then at the end, to show his growth, Bruce treats Alfred like a human being for the first time in his life by calling him Alfred.
Alfred.
Not Pennyworth. Alfred. That's a nice moment.
No, I thought that was nice. It's kind of the same character arc as the Batman, right? Where it's like I have to be more than just like an angry wraith. I have to be hope. I can't just be vengeance.
And I'm fine. I'm fine with this younger, colder take on Batman. We've just seen that a lot recently, from Arkham Origins to the Batman to now this. We've seen this take a lot, and while I'm fine with it, I'm also glad we're now getting past it. Like, okay, he is already showing growth. He's getting out of his shell. You know, like he has a clear progression here, and I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that, and I agree with you that we've seen that a lot. I think the biggest thing the show may have an issue with running forward is how derivative of the Batman is it going to end up being.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I what I hope is for season 2, they just get out of that. Next season he's just Batman. Mm-hmm. Skip ahead a little bit if you have to. Just he's Batman. You know, he's also overcome.
Do we do Riddler? And if we do, what's their take on him gonna be like? I have no idea.
Your blind eye. I feel like it would be very. That's the place where you could get away from like Jigsaw Riddler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anime fan, I like that Flass was so corrupt that Batman was tempted to get rid of him, but he didn't. Instead, he threw the gun in the river like he did in Begins. And I love the scene towards the end where Batman scares Rupert Thorne.
Yeah, that's a good scene. When he throws the battering through his window.
Yes.
Like, hey, I'm watching you. And
I have a nitpick. They recreate, the classic animated series shot, but it doesn't look as good with that model.
No, it doesn't. But I was fine with it.
Need a bulkier Batman for that.
Yeah, that's fair. It was a good scene.
Or just a better suit. I don't know.
I think the suit's perfect.
It needs a bigger bat. No. I want the absolute metal bar, but like maybe even more ridiculous than that. Like it doesn't even have the wings. It's just like a line across his chest.
It's just a black rectangle.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's my people's symbol for hope.
and then we get the cliffhanger, and it's. I think everybody expected it. Like it's the most obvious thing to do. Not that that's a bad thing.
It's the Joker. I'm on
The
it.
Joker, baby.
I know people are sick of the Joker. I'm not.
Okay, so can I just ask this though? For people who are sick of the Joker, the last time we had a good Joker was 2008 on an adaptation. Isn't it time? Like, can we do it again? My only worry is that voice sucks.
We'll see. It's like one line. I didn't have a strong.
I just delivered really badly.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, so I don't know. What I did now, I mean, they keep him mostly hidden in shadow, but I was still trying to look to see, like, okay, what's their spin on him gonna be? You know, like what's gonna be.
Well, Austin seems to think it's gonna be the like the old school like scary Joker.
I hope it is, like, because he looks kind of like his first Golden Age appearance. I don't want like a Reddit. That's a character where I'm like, I just do the Joker. I feel like we haven't done classic because I actually like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, but that's a very different version.
Yeah, anime fan just said Joker is great in 2018 Joker. Okay, but that's like not the Joker.
That's not classic Joker. We haven't seen classic Joker in a long time. It feels like, except for the Arkham game.
If you're talking about on film, it's The Dark Knight.
Yeah, and Arkham Knight's almost 10 years old now. You know, if you're counting that. Like,
it is 10 years old, isn't it?
Oh, well, 2015. So
okay,
we're almost at 10 years. And even then, he's like a ghost hallucination. We haven't had classic Joker in a good bit.
Long time. Yeah.
Now, do you think that's the premiere or the finale? Or is that going to be a weird random episode in the middle? Because I could see season 2 having like a 2-part big finale that's Joker.
I think if they're smart, it's the premiere, but you set it up that he comes back, and then you. Okay, I'm gonna give the cop out answer. They're smart. You pay it off. You pay off the cliffhanger in the premiere, but then you set it up, and he comes back in the finale.
And then they kill him.
No. Well,
they might
kill him.
Yeah. Also, I'm fine with Joker and Harley being just two completely separate entities. I thought you were going to bring that up. Like, do they team up in season 2?
So I kind of hinted at like that's going to be weird. I just don't understand the point of doing Harley Quinn that isn't attached to the Joker if then you're going to turn around and do the Joker
this early.
Like,
I also, you could have just kept her as Dr. Quinzel this season. I would have been fine with that because I did like that episode.
How cool would it be though if we like kept her as like Bruce's therapist, or like it's just Montoya's girlfriend who's brought in as a regular Sabrina, and then in season 2 she's corrupted, she's turned, she betrays everything that she stands for. Like that Harley Quinn twist just feels so short-sighted to me.
I also don't even hate the idea of her being corrupted before she meets the Joker. I'm fine with that too, that she does have this dark side and this shady things going on. I don't need her corrupted by the Joker in the show. It just feels odd.
Adam March is here. Well, we got to start the video over. So we're talking about the Caped Crusader show. How's it going, Adam March? And maybe this is the part of me, because I feel like I'm very inconsistent with reinventions. When it's good, I'm like, oh, that's great. But when it's bad, it's like, why didn't you just do the character? And I had that with this show. It's because like I didn't like the Harley Quinn. It's like, you're one half of the team that created Harley Quinn. Just do Harley Quinn. We also haven't had traditional Harley Quinn in 30 years on film. And wait a minute. Okay. So Anime Fan says, I suspect that season 2 will reveal whatever Alfred's big secret is. I just had an insane thought.
Oh, no.
Have you ever read...
His brother?
No. Have you ever read Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader?
No, I still need to. We've talked about it, but I still need it.
So the big twist in that...
I don't think I want to know. You told me to read that and see what the
Ah,
reaction was. I don't know if I want you to spoil that for me.
ah. Okay,
I'd rather read that.
we'll come back to that because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I need you to read that.
I need to read it. Yeah.
I think it's whatever happened to the Caped Crusader. No
I
boy,
was too
spoil it
busy
forever.
watching. I was too busy watching The Crow yesterday, and now I have 3 sequels I have to
No, you need to watch Buffy, you bastard.
watch. That is true.
Anna March says, I like the Harley reinvention, but you're right, John. When was the last classic Harley? Because even in the movies, like, as much as I love her in The Suicide Squad, she's very much modern Harley, which I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the best I've liked modern Harley, but
Yeah, and I do like that Harley Quinn show.
Adam March says Harleen still has the best Harley. I haven't read it. Maybe we should review that soon.
Yeah, I've heard Harleen's very good. And
I don't know. I just
other than the outfit changes though, she's pretty classic Harley in the Arkham games.
yeah.
Like she's still a villain. She still works with the Joker.
But
She's
if we're not counting the Arkham games for Joker, we're not counting them for Harley.
Right.
We have to be
Also,
consistent, Roberto.
Yeah, well, and even though Margot Robbie is perfect casting, what sucks is you kind of get classic Harley in the first Suicide Squad with their take on Mad Love. I just want that story adapted well in a movie. Like we did it, we just didn't.
You didn't like it when you threw her in the goop. That doesn't really mean anything.
Nah.
You didn't like when they awkwardly recreated the Alex Ross painting.
Yeah, it didn't look great. That's the problem with Harley too. As much as I love that animated series costume, I don't think that translates great to live action, or at least I haven't proven it can be. Like, is it White Knight?
Costume, I don't think the costume looks bad in Suicide Squad when you get it for like that second. It's just not shot
just
well.
Not shot, yeah.
And it's next to a not classic Joker.
Right. That's what throws it off. Like, look, he's in the black tux and he still has all these shitty tattoos on his face.
He's damaged.
He still looks like Post Malone. I like some
Post Malone Joker.
But yeah, I don't remember if it's White Knight or some other modern Harley comics, but I have seen a take though where she has like the classic suit from the neck down, but she just has the blonde hair. Like she doesn't have the full mask; she just has the Domino mask and the blonde hair out. I think that looks fine. But yeah, like if you want classic Harley, you don't get that here. And again, I thought they had some good ideas. I like the idea of her being an evil psychiatrist who's like driving her victims insane, or you know, her way of punishing the corrupt and stuff. Like there's good ideas here. I thought the episode was just fine. And it's just weird where now that we're teasing Joker, are we gonna have those characters meet? Like this obviously isn't Harley inspired by the Joker, we don't think, unless we work him into her backstory. I don't know. I'm also fine with just keeping them separate, but we'll see what they do. I don't know. I'm hoping, I'm open to seeing whatever they do, but I am hoping for just a classic Joker. That's a villain that I hope we just don't try too hard to overthink or reinvent. Like just do the Joker.
Out of March 2016 felt like they just awkwardly, I'm assuming that's supposed to be stuffed Harley stuff into it. But yes, Margot was great casting but feels very modern. Weird to be speaking like this about a character that is only 30 years old. Yeah, and like we've never tried to do classic Harley in any adaptation. It's always modern Harley, like when she breaks up with the Joker.
What are you talking about? We got a movie called Batman and Harley Quinn. That's classic Harley, right? I'm dreading that one. I'm dreading that one,
man. Okay, so we're gonna try to go for maybe 20 more minutes and then wrap this up. We've been going almost 2.5 hours. What do you want for next season? Can be villains, storylines you want adapted.
Top of my list is Hugo Strange, and I hope it's not a reinvention or a new twist. Just do classic Hugo Strange.
Okay, please. So I'm going to cut in real quick just because I want to follow up on this point. I don't want to forget. Do you think that's too redundant with this take on Harley?
No. Like, the show has like a couple scientist archetypes like we see in the Clayface episode, but we haven't done a straight up mad scientist plot yet, and you can do a lot with Hugo Strange. Like with Night of the Monster Men, that's a classic one where he makes giant zombies. Just do that. You don't need you don't need the main emphasis to be on the psychiatrist angle. He can just be a mad scientist who makes monsters for Batman to fight. Like, I'm fine with that. Or just he's
So
just obsessed with
uninteresting though.
Batman. Yeah, the Golden Age US Ray is great. Just have him obsessed with Batman, mad scientist. You can do a lot with him. I just want him in multiple episodes, or at least two, because
If you're
he's
gonna
one
do the
where,
Monster Man, it has to be a two-parter.
yeah. And his episode of the animated series, I think, is very good, but he only gets one. That's a villain who's kind of underused in that show. And
Just in
with
general.
leaning into the Golden Age aesthetic, just I want them to use Hugo Strange well. He's at the top of my list. And
Okay.
Joker, they're teasing, so hopefully it's just a classic Joker and they don't try too hard to reinvent or their own twist on it, but we'll see.
Adam March says, curious what villains you want to see and what villains you actually think we'll see. I mean, I don't know what we'll actually see. That's just so hard to tell because, like, I like this show, but there's not a consistent, like, these are the only types of villains that we're using. Like, say, like Nolan, where we can only use villains that we can modify to fit this aesthetic. It's no, we're pulling from everything. Um,
You mentioned
so
Hush earlier. That's possible.
Hush would be good, and I think what would be cool about Hush is you could adapt that into this aesthetic and make it so that's a villain you can reinvent because nobody gives a fuck about Tommy Elliott. I'm sorry, but I want to see Scarecrow. Please, somebody at DC, this is your chance. Scarecrow voiced by Robert Englund. Give it to me. I need it.
That would be perfect. I also wouldn't complain if they got Jeffrey Combs back.
Adam Marge, I probably missed it, but did you guys talk about the Robins? We did talk about it a little bit. Just to kind of summarize it, it was cool, but it seems a little short-sighted because, like, if you ever decide you do want to do Robins, you're stuck with that. But I appreciated the Stephanie Brown shout-out. She's cool, and she's always spoiler. I want to see Scarecrow. I'll second Hugo Strange. Man Bat would be cool. Adam Marsh, I wanted Robert Englund's Scarecrow forever, and animation that doesn't count.
You get it there.
And I think animation is the only way you're going to get that now because, like, obviously he can't do the actual. He's too old.
Yeah, it's Scarecrow and Hugo Strange for sure.
Hugo Strange. I want to see Riddler, but only if they go to classic Riddler. I'm tired of Riddler reinventions. I love the one in the Batman. The Arkham one is, like, annoying on purpose. Just make a Riddler like that wants to tell riddles and kill people. I don't know.
As long as he's back in the suit with the hat, you know.
And I think the show would do that.
That'd be neat.
We got a Killer Croc, and I don't really like it.
I could see them bringing him back potentially.
I think he could come back.
Also, very high on my list would be just some Golden Age stories that have just never been adapted, like the Mad Monk. Nocturna's kind of a vampire, but not really. Like, this show could still go full vampire. I'd be down. Just give me an episode of Batman fighting Dracula again, or a vampire. I'd be fine with the show going full vampire. Also, Dr. Death is Batman's first, like, real arch enemy. Him or Hugo Strange, but Dr. Death's an early one who the comics kind of forget about. Scott Snyder brought him back and put kind of a different spin on him in the New 52 run, but I would love to see Dr. Death.
Where is he at in the New 52 run?
I want to say it's during, like, the Bruce Wayne amnesia plot. It's been so long since.
Oh, okay. So I just haven't read that stuff. I
haven't read that stuff in ages, so I could be.
Adam Arch, give us a Gortian Riddler. I want a darker Riddler than that.
Yeah, you can find the balance.
Yeah.
Also, I like, because we always expect it. Court of Owls would be cool if they did it well.
This would be a cool place that could be a season-long arc.
It could be. A lot of people want Ra's al Ghul. I'm fine with that, but let's save him for season 3. I
don't really
there's some other villains I'd rather see.
I don't know if I want Ra's for this Batman.
I agree. I'm just trying to play fair. We've seen Ra's al Ghul in League of Assassins a lot. I kind of want to give some other villains a spotlight for a bit. But yeah, Hugo Strange, Scarecrow, Doctor Death. Those are probably my top 3 for season 2.
I want to see Red Hood.
Interesting.
Here's what I would do. Something happens to the Jason Todd that we're introduced to, and like
tiny 8-year-old child.
You just yeah, and then you can conceive a reason for him to grow up. The show, you could do that in the show. And he becomes kind of the antithesis of Batman and starts killing people because he doesn't think that Batman is doing enough to keep Gotham safe.
I think he's too young to make that work, but maybe.
Too young to make being aged up work?
Unless you did like a really big time skip, but we'll see.
Okay, so you're going to tell me that the show that turns a man into a clay face, it's too much to have somebody aged up rapidly?
I don't know.
Seems Adam March, I want to see Red Hood, said no one ever. I mean, I don't want to see Red Hood as a Bat family member, but I think he works as a villain.
Yeah, well, I also would have speculated that maybe we'll do Red Hood stuff before we do Joker, but we've already teased Joker, so they're obviously not.
Well, and that Red Hood, like, that was just a rough idea, draft, like, just hitting the beats, and B, that's like from out of left field, like, I don't expect them to do that. I'm just throwing an idea out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think? Okay, this is gonna be speculation / prediction. If we bring in Poison Ivy, how likely is it that we bring her back in the episode we bring back Harley? When we bring back Harley, is that when we put our version of Poison Ivy in?
Possibly. Because that's the big thing now. The only reason I hesitate is because I could see them doing that, but I don't want them to do that because
it's not high on my list.
That, in my opinion, because this season feels very timeless. You could watch this now. You could watch this in 10 years. If you put that where it's like, oh, Harley and Ivy are together, that's instantly going to date that season because that is a very now thing. Mm-hmm. John wants Red Hood and Hush on sub. Adam Arch, no. wait. No.
Mr. Freeze would be cool, but that's one where I feel like if they did freeze, Tim would want to reinvent him again. I don't think he'd want to just do what he's done already. So maybe not.
That's a tricky situation because that their Mr. Freeze is already a reinvention. Mm-hmm. So like maybe reinvent it again. That would be cool though. Like Mr. Freeze has been adapted worse than even like Joker. Or
hey, they could do some synergy with Suicide Squad and do Mrs. Freeze.
No. Have you seen the skins they released for that?
Some of them look really awful.
Anime fan, my fan theory is that Alfred and Martha had an affair, so Alfred hired Joe to get rid of Thomas. However, Joe accidentally got rid of both parents. Alfred felt so guilty that he became Bruce's butler. I definitely wouldn't want them to do the Ivy and Harley. I agree. They can do Mr. Freeze as an Austrian bodybuilder of future political. Dude, do you know how much respect I would have if they got Arnold back for Mr. Freeze?
That'd make this the biggest show in the world.
Dude, that would legitimately make this the best Batman show.
I've always wanted to play Mr. Freeze. He's a very sexy character. Everyone loves him. Of course he'd play him again. Oh, that'd be wonderful. Okay, so we've talked about villains we want to see or who could see. It's also important to know that, okay, we're dealing with potentially, sounds like 10 more episodes. And some villains I'm sure this season will come back. Firebug and Dent are off the table because they're dead. And then
they're dead, Jim.
What we're left with are Penguin, Clayface, Catwoman, Gentleman Ghost, Automatopoeia, and Nocturna. Like that's 6 episodes potentially. Which of those do you think they're most likely to bring back and give another whole episode? Because I feel like
Gentleman Ghost is one of them. I don't think
Nocturna,
Gentleman
I'm
Ghost
sure.
is coming back. I feel like if we bring Nocturna back, it undoes the end of that episode. Um,
Yeah, like unless they just have a really good
I'm
story
gonna
with them.
say I'm gonna say Penguin and Catwoman, and those are the only
Yeah,
two that I'd like to see brought back. They're easily the
that
best.
Clayface.
And Clayface. Sorry, so
Those
three:
three.
Clayface, Penguin, and Catwoman. Those are the three I'd like to see back because those are the only three villains that I liked.
Yeah, but how fun would it be though if instead of doing another whole onomatopoeia episode, what if he's just hired by Penguin for one episode? That'd
Yeah,
be a
no,
fun
I
one.
want Onomatopoeia to come back,
You,
but it would have to be in a supporting role.
but you could do some weird, fun like matchups like that, right?
You know, you could
Instead of
also, you know what you could also do? She could remake Batman Returns and do it better. Make it good.
Penguin Catwoman.
Oh, we didn't talk about they do the Batman Returns. Oh, you hit me. I'm a woman, but it like makes sense and is
This is a
logical.
child. Yeah, it's great. And he's like, oh, now I feel really bad about this.
And then she just decks him. This Batman gets his ass beat a few times.
Yep.
Alfred, I found a child, an angel.
Okay, so I think I've just mapped out season 2 in my head. Okay, we've got Penguin, Onomatopoeia, Clayface, uh, Catwoman, and then Hugo Strange, Doctor Death, Scarecrow, Joker. Like that could be a whole season potentially. I think there's a
Adam Arch
that's a good
Deadshot has
mix.
to come back after 2 seconds. I want him to come.
I,
I want a Deadshot, but I don't know if I want
yeah,
this Deadshot.
I think that's just that one's just like Killer Croc is someone they could conceivably bring back as like a hired gun or hired muscle. Like I could see them bringing that Killer Croc back and giving him a bigger of a role. Deadshot feels like just a cameo thrown in as a reference, and we're done. I think they're more likely to bring back Onomatopoeia than doing more with that taking Deadshot, which is unfortunate because Deadshot's great.
Yeah, I love Deadshot.
Also,
Um,
though earlier mentioned, I agree that I don't think they're bringing Jill and Ghost back, but they could bring back Papa Midnight
yeah,
and do a different story with him or involve him in some way. That could be cool.
Constantine, please.
That'd be great. Tim did say in a recent interview that they have season 2 planned. They're in the middle of working on it. Hopefully, it comes out next year. Could take longer than that, but he did mention Superman specifically that he's not in the immediate future. But when we get to season 3 or more, who knows? And we've already given Lois Lane a cameo in this show, so if this show gets to 3 seasons, I think that's when we get Superman. But I'm not
Adam
expecting
Arch wants to see Mad Hatter. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Mad Hatter would be cool.
Um, okay, so how about villains you don't want to see? I'm gonna go with the most obvious, but not obvious. Deathstroke. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, he's overdone. I feel the same way about Ra's al Ghul. Like he's great. I'm excited for the DCU version of Ra's al Ghul. I hope they get him right there. But we've seen him in other media a lot. Let's save him for
Adam
later.
Arch is really on an Aquaman kick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can put Aquaman in the show. That's fine.
If you do that, you better do Green Lantern because Green Lantern's better than Aquaman.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool. I don't know if you care at all about Golden Age Green Lantern, but it would be neat if the show brings in like Flash and Green Lantern if they're the Golden Age versions. That'd make me happy. I like Alan Scott. I like Jay Garrick.
I don't have anything against them. I want Hal Jordan. Damn it!
He's in a lot of stuff. You're gonna get him in the DC.
Name one.
What do you mean? He's the lead of his own show that was canceled after 1 season.
Yeah, fuck you.
Nah, he's in stuff. He's in Brave and the Bold. He's in most of those New 52 animated movies. Like we've gotten how to.
I'm not hearing anything good. Adam Arch John's takes recently have been brutal. Green Lantern is better than Aquaman. I'm sorry, it just is. It is what it is.
They're both great.
Aquaman is cool. I like the John's run on Aquaman. I need to read the Peter David run.
Also, if they want to be random, Black Canary, she's in Gotham City sometimes, and then
They have a connection.
But yeah, I could
Okay.
see Black Canary showing up.
I want them to just do an episode that is an adaptation of All Star Batman and
I knew
Robin.
you could say that. Just do that for an episode.
Alfred,
Oh God.
I found an angel, and it told me I'm the goddamn Batman.
Also, and then back to our speculation though, I'm nervous that they won't do it because the show, for the most part, has tried to put its own spin on things and is kind of telling its own story. But I would love if they just did Ego for an episode. Like you could change some
Did
things,
what?
but Ego would make for
Oh
such a
yeah.
great episode of the show, and other Darwin Cook stories and other just one-off issues. Like I love to like just adapt some more comics.
So I'm gonna
That's
say
all you need to see.
I'm with you there. I'm even gonna go as far as to say Ego would be a perfect premiere to help deal with the aftermath of Harvey Dent died, partly because of Bruce's actions.
Yeah, the big thing you'd have to change is just the setup of that story with
Mhm.
the Joker because they're already established rivals, and you'd have to change the setup. But you could make that work.
That's fine.
But you get that
Um,
great scene though with the guy who's like, "I killed my entire family," so the Joker wouldn't kill them.
Adam
Like, that's
Arch,
pretty good.
serious question though: do we really need it connected to a larger DC universe? Yes, Lois got a cameo. Do you think having other non-bad appearances would help the series? Okay, so this is where I'm going to say I am in the middle. I don't need the greater DC universe. I want a Superman because Batman and Superman are friends,
Mhm.
and that is
You don't
not
need
a
a Justice
connection
League.
we. Yeah, I don't need a Justice League. I don't even need any other superheroes to show up. I want Superman because I want that world's finest dynamic.
Mhm.
It's not just they're not just superheroes that team up; like they are friends.
Yeah. But if the show gets to season 4 or season 5, hypothetically, then I'd be fine with Wonder Woman showing up, or Green
But also,
Lantern, or
like I
Flash.
know that's cool to hate
Start
on
over.
connected universes now, but like I don't know, superheroes shouldn't exist in a bubble.
Mhm.
Like there should be acknowledgement, like you're part of a larger
Mhm.
thing. Like they don't need to show up every episode. I don't need another Brave and the Bold. But like, I want those dynamics to be on screen. Like I want Batman to have that best friend Superman. I want hell you could do the Bruce Lois thing again,
Mhm.
but not make it like insanely rushed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Adam
you
H.
could do
Okay,
some
that
cool
makes
stuff.
sense. Yeah, like I don't care about like a connected universe other than the fact that I've always found the only superheroes that make sense to be in a bubble is the X-Men. But like
Mhm.
just having like Spider-Man run around by himself is weird, or just like Batman where no one else exists is weird. You miss out on those dynamics.
I would love if we got the Spectre, and I'm worried we're not doing that since we made Jim Corrigan a corrupt cop. And I'd also be fine with the Christmas Allen version of Spectre, but we haven't brought in
Although,
Christmas Allen yet. So
so I'm not a huge Spectre expert, but they could go with like he's the Spectre because of the choices he made as a corrupt cop.
they could they could put that twist on it, where it's like it's his penance or his potential redemption. I'm also fine with that. Dead Man would be cool. That's a random one, but I'd be fine with the Dead Man episode. We've already introduced Plastic Man. I don't think they're going to make him Plastic Man, but he's here. I also think Jack Ryder's in the show somewhere. That's the Creeper. He's fun. I don't think they do the Creeper, but the
I,
setup's
I need
there.
them to do the Creepers just so that
Uh,
somebody go Jeepers, it's the Creeper.
yeah, there's a
Adam
Scooby
Arch, I
Doo
agree
something.
superheroes shouldn't exist in a bubble, but I just wonder if it helps the show. I think the connected universe is a positive comic universe. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think it helps or hinders the show, but I do
it is
think
a
it gives
Batman show.
you, yeah.
Like
Like at
if
the end
you're
of the day, it's
making
still a Batman show, but like, because like the DCAU did crossovers all the time, and it culminated in a crossover. But like, just having them show up and like acknowledge like these two are best friends and arguably like the two biggest heroes in this universe.
Zatanna would be cool. You could do a Zatanna episode.
Yeah, do the
It'd
do
be
like the
nice to get
Smallville thing.
it'd be nice to get Paul Dini on here. I don't know if him and Tim had like a falling out. They just never work together anymore. They're always doing separate projects, but it'd be nice if they brought him on to write some episodes.
Yeah.
They're both great.
Well, and you could have told me that the Nocturne episode was a Dini episode, and I would have believed you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff.
So are there any storylines that you want to see adapted or don't want to see adapted?
Don't want to see. I'm not in a rush to see Bane. I don't think the show needs
Oh
Bane.
God. No, no Nightfall, no No
No,
Man's Land.
no Azrael.
Although, okay, actually, No Man's Land could kind of slap in this continuity.
If that was a season of Gotham has this major earthquake,
And
that could be a great through line.
Batman and Superman aren't really best friends. Batman's best friend is Jim Gordon, while Superman's best friend is Jimmy Olsen. That is incorrect, sir.
They've been friends for a long time. They don't really do it. The idea of Batman and Superman not getting along, like that's not really a thing until Dark Knight Returns and then post crisis stuff.
Like we kind of like maybe that was true once upon a time, but I feel like modern day, like those two are best friends.
We also done a lot like post Rebirth. There have been a lot of Batman and Superman comics. I think New 52 we got away from that, but then post Rebirth we've had a lot of.
No, New 52 had an ongoing a ongoing Batman Superman book.
Okay, I just didn't read it.
It gets really awkward because it continues on into the status quo change. So you get the blue bunny mech Batman and jeans and shirt Superman.
Weird.
Adam Arch, no Bane and no Raish. We talked about that. Adam Arch and even Dark Knight Returns, they dread having to fight. Superman more so than Batman. Like Batman's ready. Like he wants to do it.
That's true. Don't adapt All-Star Batman and Robin unless
you have to do that. Do it. Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, or that's your Hal Jordan episode.
No,
he paints everything yellow.
and instead of Robin, he's gonna make Alfred live on rats.
That's great.
I want Batman and Superman to have separate franchises, but I mean, we already have that with Adventures of Superman and Caped Crusader. There's no reason you can't bring in a separate Superman for this. Oh, Adam Arch just gave me my new number one villain I want to see, Black Mask.
Yep, who was never an animated series, so that'd be perfect.
Just do it. Just do it, Tim.
Just don't do that weird design from the Dark Tomorrow game.
Yeah.
Just do Skull, Black Mask. You can have a fedora, but make it a skull, please.
Yeah.
That's top 5 for sure.
You can do this is where you can do the laughing fish. Just do it straight.
Hmm?
I actually haven't read that, but I know it's popular.
It's adapted pretty closely in an episode of animated series.
I just got how you bring Superman into this. Have you read the John Byrne Superman?
I still have not.
So Batman, they do an arc in that, which is why I call bullshit that they're not best friends, because it goes back to the 80s with Byrne, where Superman goes to Gotham and like they have to team up to stop a jewel thief. I can't remember who it is. And like Batman, the way Batman stops Superman from like just arresting him is like I have bombs set in Gotham, and like if you try to do anything, it'll blow up and kill someone. And then you find out at the end of the episode, at the end of the comic, that he was the one with the bomb on him, and he was the one that would have died. So like he gets the upper hand on Superman.
That'd be great.
No, that's how you do that, especially with this Batman. What if their Robin is Damian, and they just don't do Raish?
Subvert expectations.
He just appeared. We don't know where he came from.
They could have Duke Thomas.
Everyone, he's not even a Robin. That doesn't count. All right, Robert, it is 5 after 10, and I am running out of things to say. Anything else you want to say? Any final thoughts?
It's not my favorite Batman show, but I think it's really good. It's a strong start. I think there's room for improvement, and I think season 2 could be better. I think there's a really solid foundation here.
Edward says Alfred will be rocked.
Only if he wears the green shorts.
No, wait. No, I think this sets a good foundation. What just the time we live in, right? Like, we have a good Batman and Superman show on again.
It's really nice. I've missed this. It's just
and they arguably both have the same problem of villain reinvention that aren't as interesting.
That's
Superman more so, but That's because it's all anime, and
Also,
we know
it's
Robert
especially
hates the animes.
that's not true. I like it.
Adam Marsh,
We're
that's a
also
large man to beat for those shorts.
we're also coming off of a decade of so many not Batman shows like Gotham and Pennyworth and stuff that it's just really nice to have a Batman show where Batman's the main character.
We're
We haven't
back.
done one of these in a while. We're back, baby. Also, yeah, this we're finally have something new Batman related really cover on the channel. It's exciting, and then in a month we got the Penguin, and that'll be a weekly thing. We'll need to pick a day to review that weekly. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we still got to do. We should do a commentary on this show at some point. You can knock that out in an evening.
Hmm?
So Robert, we didn't really have a plan for what we were going to do next, because next, when we come back to this channel, will be a comic review. But Adam March mentioned it, so what do you say we just do Harleen?
Harleen's not a bad choice. We can get Noah's input. It's Harleen, unless you want to first do that Nocturne storyline.
That will depend on Josh,
It's,
because
it's
he
a,
wants to. That will depend on Doolittle, because
okay.
he wants to be here for that.
I'd be fine with either of those, but first we have a Batman '89 commentary we got to do, so it'll be in a few weeks.
Yeah. So we will be back in 2 weeks from this previous Friday. We took a little hiatus. We're coming back. We're back in 2 weeks to do 89. And then if you watch us over on Haven of Horror, next week we'll be doing Alien 3. And then we need to figure out a way to do Alien Resurrection at some point, because we're running out of time, Robert.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be after Romulus comes out, but not by too much.
That's
we'll
fine.
get to that.
But
we'll get to that resurrection.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
Well, are we going to be here next Sunday? Are we going to get back to gaming?
That depends on Noah.
Okay. Are you?
Everything.
No, you guys are still in the middle of Origins, right? You haven't finished that yet.
Yes.
Okay. So we might be here next Sunday for Origins.
We'll see. If you let me get there, Robert. Aliens, yes, Harleen is so good. Yeah, so I would like to do Harleen just because that is something completely different than anything we've done on the channel. So get us back in in almost 2 weeks for an 89 commentary. I know it's the most original thing in the fucking world, but I don't care. And then follow us over on Haven of Horror if you want to see what we think of Alien 3. Have a good night, everybody.